Due to the COVID-19 emergency, the Prince Edward County Board of Supervisors is operating pursuant to and in compliance with the Emergency Continuity of Operations Ordinance. While physically in-person access to these public meetings is not permitted, the public may participate in these meetings by calling 1-844-890-7777, access code 390313. If it's busy, please call again. This time, I'm going to ask Jerry if he would give our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for last night's sleep. Lord, thank you for bringing us just this far in this day. Lord, we thank you for giving us knowledge, wisdom. Most of all, Lord, thank you for our understanding. We ask you to be with the bereaved families today. Pick them up where they're down. Let them know earth has no sorrows that heaven cannot heal. Lord, we ask you to heal the sick from the crown of their head to the sole of their feet. We thank you for the food we eat, the air we breathe. Lord, we know with you we can do all things. Without you we can do nothing. We ask you to continue to bless this board. Bless us to continue to give, to lead this county, Prince Edward, into positive directions. Lord, we ask you to bless each and every one that's here tonight. Bless those that have a desire to be here, but for some reason they're not. But we know you know all about it. And Lord, we ask that when we come to the end of this old dusty road, that you give us a home somewhere in that kingdom where the streets are paved with gold and there's many, many mansions. And Lord, let the words from our mouth and the meditation of our hearts always be pleasing in our sight. This is your service prayer in thy most holy and precious name. And we all said, amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there any conflict of interest this evening? If not, I'm going to go to the board comments. Ms., you have anything to say, Ms. Pride?
No.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me get that off. I'd just like to say, glad that everybody's here and that they're safe and healthy.
Amen.
Ms. Patty Cooper?
Yes. Nothing. Thank
Nothing
you.
to say. Jim, you got anything for us this evening?
No, I don't have it.
Bobby?
Yeah, I just got a question, and this might be off the topic of the board of supervisors, but I was hoping maybe the county administrator heard something. How serious is this shutdown with the oil flow to the East Coast?
It's our understanding that the Colonial Pipeline will be back up and running by the end of the week. Sarah is on top of everything Prince Edward to make sure that we have adequate fuel supplies for county and municipal and emergency vehicles. So I feel pretty comfortable about where we're at. I'd say locally, from looking at the rush on the gas stations today, I would not be surprised to see a number of stations out of gas the next couple of days until they get the stock replenished. We have heard word that some of the kind of regional few entities, they are getting deliveries, maybe delayed or sporadic. It's evolving. We'll continue to let you know. But I think the good news is they anticipate the pipeline being back up and running, but it'll take a few days to get
Well, I called my distributor.
going.
For the farm, and they got to me, but he said they were having a hard time getting it. And one good thing for agriculture, they do give us a little priority about having fuel. But I don't know, talking to him, he wasn't so positive this thing was going to go on as quickly as this.
I think it'll be next week before things,
This could be a
everybody has
serious-
gas back up.
By the way, Doug,
I think we feel confident that the county will, at the moment, I think we feel confident
I
that the
did, but I'm
county will
coming
be
back to it.
able
I
to
just-
maintain public safety
I'm looking out.
and, critical
Straight to it.
infrastructure, solid waste, sheriff's office, talked to the sheriff a couple times today. The rescue squad, obviously life safety is first, and then, property would come next in terms of priority, but we still have to keep the landfill operational. So based on the supply that we have right now and what we know, I know the rescue squad reached out to, Scott Davis and spoke, with the town. So I think we're comfortable with the position that the county operations are in. I think our citizens could feel the shortage in the short term, while our governmental operations may continue.
Well, I just don't, on my part, and I hate to be selfish, it sounds like I'm selfish, but I produce obviously a perishable product, milk. And if it doesn't get picked up, and I've talked to my hauler, and he has big concerns too about what's gonna happen here. And this is gonna backlog, and it's gonna make a big mess, I'm afraid.
Well, I think you're-
Doug, I ran into something, somebody called me this morning and said, hey, you need to go get some gas, and I only had about a quarter of a ton. So I hunted for the shortest line and tried to fill up. I said, try it, because they limited me to $25,
That's right.
which is approximately 9 gallons maybe,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Well, I put a lock on my gas tank, so anyhow.
But I think you're right, Bobby. The haulers are the ones that are really gonna, I've heard from two of them already today that could not, they got delivered, but they could not get home because they couldn't find fuel anywhere to fill up to get home. So they're sitting.
Exactly. And,
So it's 14 days even after the pipeline, quote unquote, gets back online to get
Right.
it from one end to the other. So it's gonna be pretty serious.
And the
I would
pipeline
say-
carries 45% of all the
45% of all
gasoline
on
to
the East Coast.
Coast.
That's correct. So it is something that we need to be mindful of, that's for sure. If you don't have to drive, I would say to the public, please don't, because there are a lot of people that have to have it to get to work or their jobs or whatever else. Absolutely. Oh, and with that said, I'm gonna go to public participation and
Well-
open it up. Oh, Jerry, I didn't go to you
Just
first.
wanna
Sorry about
thank
that,
everyone
Jerry.
for being here and those online.
Lou?
Glad to see everyone tonight.
All right, I'm gonna open up do we have anyone signed in? We do? Let's see here. Patsy Watson for public participation. Are you online, Patsy?
I sure am. Thank you.
All right, we're ready for you. Go ahead.
Well, I really appreciate the chance to speak with you tonight. This is a valuable time that I know you're giving to me, and I really appreciate it. I'm representing Farmville Cares. As you know, we've been kind of the local response team to assist people during the pandemic. We've had about 391 referrals with self-referrals and others referring people, neighbors, and family and friends that need assistance. We've been able to go out and we've helped 21 people in a more significant way with housing needs and gas needs, and we feel like we've made an impact. Recently, we've been assisting with the vaccine clinics, and we created a session with Dr. Adekoya with the Virginia Department of Health and the Ministerial Alliance pastors to make sure that we had a real effort with health equity here in Prince Edward County. And we were able to get 131 names referred for those clinics. During the ice storm, if you remember that, we had about 64 volunteers that put in about 332 hours to help feed people in the county. And then in the last 5 vaccination clinics that we worked, we've placed about 141 volunteers throughout those full days for about 750 hours worth of volunteer time. And there's been some other admin time that I've done that amounts to some hours too. But tonight, I'm here to really request your help in helping us encourage the community to get vaccinated, and also creating some enthusiasm and some energy at the clinics, as we are not as busy as we once were when we were trying to get those over 65 vaccinated. People are taking their time and really thinking about whether they're going to get the vaccine. And so we really want to generate some energy and enthusiasm. So I have a special guest tonight. I see his iPhone on here, and he is going to come before you with a challenge. And I'm going to let him speak now, and then I'll hang around if you have any questions.
Sure.
David?
They're going to, hang on one second, Patsy, they're going to check and see if we're having a glitch. I think someone's trying to talk now and they're,
Patsy, are you there?
there you go.
Yes, yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Supervisors and County Administration, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for allowing me to join your meeting tonight. First, let me thank Patsy Watson for all that she has done. Patsy and the Farmville Cares Group have worked extremely hard, and we've come a long way since last May. We are really grateful to Patsy and her hard work and all that she's done. And so, Mr. Chairman, in talking to her earlier this week, or actually last week, I guess it is now, I happen to be out of pocket, so I've lost track of time. But we talked about a vaccination clinic on, I believe, June the 2nd. And I would like to issue a challenge to the Board of Supervisors to join the Town Council at that clinic and see if we can generate a little enthusiasm and see if we can get some folks to come out and get vaccinated. It seems that Longwood and Hampton-Sydney have done a great job controlling COVID-19. And so now we as a community need to step up to the plate and get as many folks vaccinated as we can and try to achieve that herd immunity sooner rather than later. So we talked about the date of, I believe, June the 2nd, which is actually council's work session. Perhaps the board and the council could gather for lunch that day and talk a few issues and then join the clinic. So, Mr. Chairman, are you up to the challenge?
I'm up to the challenge.
Yay!
Yeah, I'll accept your challenge, David.
I think it'd be a great thing for our community, and Patsy, again, we'll leave the planning of the details to the town and county administration and Patsy, but I think our folks were really excited to join and see if we can get some folks vaccinated.
Thank you so much. We'll see you. You'll hear from me. Don't worry.
Are there any questions for Patsy?
So more details to follow, but we would ask the board members if they could please mark their calendars for June the 2nd to join council for a joint lunch meeting at the clinic at noon at the Pathé Gym. And then from there, we'll have the members of council and the members of the board for a photo op to start the Prince Edward Vaccinate Farmville Challenge. And there'll be more details to come because we'll ask for everybody's help to recruit our citizens to actually come and get vaccinated. But those details will follow. But if you wish to mark your calendars now, that would be terrific so that you can get it in your schedule.
And sir, where is it going to be located?
At the Prince Edward Farmville Youth Association gym. Yes, sir.
And that's on a Wednesday, correct?
Yes, sir.
June the 2nd. All right, board members, I've accepted that's not on your behalf, so if you can show up, fine, and if you can't, it's completely understandable, but if you can, we'll be glad to have you. We also have Daniel Jordan. Daniel, you on tonight?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Supervisors, County Administration, and employees of Prince Edward. I appreciate getting a moment of your time. Tonight, I want to give you an update on Hybrids Trail. So I come with bringing great news that this morning I had the final walkthrough on High Bridge, and we went through with the contractor and we went through and presented him a punch list, and he's working on that, and the bridge will be open by May 19th in the morning. So we are 1 week out from being back fully open. So we're looking forward to this, and if he finishes the punch list early, we're going to open up immediately. With the reopening, we're not going to do anything special. We're just going to reopen. We are pushing out a PSA on Friday, and we're going to be working with community partners to get that word out. But yeah, like I said, we're excited to get back open. I know the community is, and I do appreciate everyone's patience as we've been in this 4-month process to redeck the entirety of the bridge. But hopefully, we will not have to do this ever again in our lifetime, that this will be sustainable. So that's where we are with the bridge. With that opening, Camp Paradise will open, and so we'll be back 100%. The other thing that, while I have your time, today we started with running power down to Camp Paradise from 460 with Dominion, and so that's the kind of the first phase of getting power down there in preparation for a visitor center in Prince Edward County. At some juncture, we do have to wait for COVID pricing on lumber and some other things, but it's a huge step forward. So for the next 3-4 days, they're going to be running equipment down the trail to lay in the power line. So a lot of big things happening, and we're looking forward to moving on from this chapter. So are there any questions for me in this right now?
I don't think so. Thanks, Daniel. We certainly
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you all and appreciate the patience as we've been in this process.
At this time, is there anyone else that is not signed up that has anything for public participation, either on the phone or here? Hey, Mark, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board of Supervisors, for your comments. I just wanted to express concern about the rumor I've heard about losing property tax for Prince Edward County. And I just wanted to explain to you guys how it will affect our business and really sort of deploy it in our area. I just also want to confirm that everybody there has received an email from Felix and I earlier today. Did you guys have a chance to look at the email and see if you received that email?
Yes, we do have a copy of that, Mark. Hey, Mark, if you're on a phone, talk directly into it if you can. We can barely hear you.
Take it off speaker.
Yeah, take it off speaker if you. There you go. That's better.
Yeah, guys, I mean, it's, this is the first thing obviously to me, in my business, and my employees, and, you know, I have to do my best to defend my family and my employees and my county. And I think this idea of moving the tax right now, right after the state and all the folks here is just, without having done any talking research on this kind of thing, and what it, how it impacts the other counties, some of there are. It's a huge church. I would appreciate if y'all would just consider taking time to really review this one before we push them to that we're not going to be able to pull back from. It really means a lot to you guys, all y'all support these years, and I want to really continue to work on growing the county tourism, and I just think that now is not a good time.
Is that all you got, Mark?
Yes, sir. That's all I have.
Certainly appreciate you calling in. Are there any questions from the board?
That's just that everybody consider this, the will affect
Thank you for your input. Are there any questions from the board while Mark's on the phone? If not, is there anyone else in public participation that's on the phone? Is there anyone in the audience that did not sign up that'd like to speak? If not, I'm going to close the public participation. This time, we're going to go to the consent agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, questions?
If nobody has anything they want changed on it, I can make a motion, we go ahead and approve it as printed in our board pack.
I'll second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bobby?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
So moved. All right, Scott, Highway Matters. Good to have you around.
Thank you, guys. It's good to be back. I enjoyed our work session, too. So I'm kind of relying on you guys to lead me through this. I don't have a copy of the agenda with me, but we're going to do a public hearing tonight. Is there a specific time that we open that?
7:30,
7:30, okay.
8 minutes.
Well, I will be done with the road matter update before 7:30.
Actually, Sarah, the public hearing is next month?
Yeah.
I was gonna
Next
say
month.
that's,
Oh,
It's next
okay,
month,
well, I'm
Scott.
way ahead of myself then.
you'll definitely be finished
I'll be
before that's
finished
over,
way
Scott.
before we open.
I'll be sure of that.
You go ahead, Scott.
There goes half my
Better
content.
early than late.
Scott, June 8, June 8.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Well, the last few months, 307 has come up with making some safety improvements out there. I was in a meeting last week where we did a lot of coordination about who's going to perform what tasks, when the stuff that's ordered is going to show up, and just the coordination of that. But everything is moving forward, even though nothing's been installed to date. I'm looking for that to be somewhere around beginning of June, hopefully. Just to kind of refresh everybody's memory, I sent Administrator Stanley a copy of the work order showing what we're going to install, but it's a series of rumble strips heading westbound in conjunction with some shields that have the route numbers on them. It'd be the similar shape that you would see on a sign, kind of, we call them shields because they look like a shield a knight would hold up and has a number written on it. So the rumble strips are going to get people's attention and let them know what lanes they're going to need to be in. And then I was talking with Assistant Administrator Puckett earlier today, and she said that she had been through a similar intersection over in Bedford, and the center line was solid. So I want to make sure we do that there too. I think that's a very good recommendation. And we're also going to improve the shoulders, pave those so that gravel will stop getting beaten out. It's just a lot to do there, and it seems like not enough people or time to do it, but we're working our way that direction. So the other thing, earlier today, I spent more time on Abilene Road than I have in one block than I have to date, but I enjoyed being out there. Took a lot of measurements. We were planning to start at 665 and widen 2 feet on either side heading toward Charlotte County. But after being out there today, it seems like it makes more sense to start at the Charlotte County line and work backwards. It's actually more narrow on that end. And I think the edge ruts are actually worse on that end. So if the board agrees, I wanted to run it by you because I've been telling you that we were going to start at 665 and head the other way. But I wanted to say that I kind of would like to change that and head from Charlotte heading this way. Just to kind of do the worst first approach, I think is very logical, but I didn't want you to be surprised when you saw that. But
Scott, I think that's a good idea. How far would you come up on Abilene Road from the Charlotte County line?
we're going to do at least 1 mile to start out, and we're hoping for 2, but we kind of have to watch the money as we go. Prices are fluctuating, and I think that the gas crisis may even affect asphalt prices. It's kind of the nature of the beast. But we're definitely going to get 1 mile, and the numbers that we've crunched so far show that if nothing changes, we should be able to do 2. Doing both sides, we're going to work 1 mile and then work 1 mile back, and then we'll move our work zone and we'll work another mile and work another mile back. So that's our plan right now. But like I told you, the last time I talked to you about it, we started mowing yesterday on the primaries. We're gonna finish the first mowing cycle, and then we're gonna switch over to that shoulder widening. So that's kind of how our schedule is. We're planning to do our second round of mowing with a contractor, and they're gonna do a litter pickup and then mow. So that will free up our forces to do a lot more work like this, rural rustics and county safety improvements, along with our other work, which has gotten behind from. The other thing I wanted to update you on is the debris removal project that we've been on for the last 2 months wrapped up last week. There's still piles throughout the county and throughout Charlotte County. We're measured those up last week, and we're hoping to have that out to bid on Thursday. So We'll have a contractor come in, grind the piles, and haul off all the chips. Is our plan as long as nothing changes. But so we finished that effort last week of getting everything into those piles. That all wrapped up. We did our dry run on all of our mowing equipment last week. All of our equipment's in very good shape. We had minimal things to repair, mostly just lights and small issues like that to make sure everything was ready on our dump trucks. And that's a typical thing that we would have done earlier in the year if we hadn't been so busy with all that debris, but it just so happened we did it this week. The last thing on my list to mention is at our work session, Mr. Stanley asked me for the top 5 unpaved roads as far as traffic. He was sort of speaking on the subject of revenue sharing when he asked me for that. I just wanted to let him know that I hadn't forgot and that I did start to look at it, about a week and a half ago. I think it might be valuable for us to do that together because it's easy to look at them just with the ones that have the highest traffic, but all roads are different and located in different areas. And, if you guys are going to be revenue sharing, I think we should put the list together. So other than that, I don't have to speak about the rural rustic program tonight. But I'll be happy to open it up for you guys' comments and concerns at this time.
I'd like to ask a question.
Sure.
The $2 or $3 billion that the governor's going to spend on the rail line to Washington and whatnot, is that going to impact the money that's available to VDOT?
To my knowledge, no. I can certainly dig deeper into it, but I think the rail, the DHRT, the acronym for the rail and transit, I think that is a completely separate pot of money than the VDOT pot of money. But I'm not an expert on that part of the budget, so I can look into that and let you know.
That's right, I was just curious.
Yeah. We just got done putting our spend plan and budget together for FY22, and it's very similar to last year's budgets.
Are there any other questions for Scott?
Yes, Scott, y'all started working on some culvert situations on Poor Ice Road. I hate to ask about my road, but anyhow. One spot, apparently they put up barrels where they were replace the culvert and extend it, because what had happened, the shoulder of the road had caved in and it was real narrow through there.
Okay, yeah.
And there was another spot down below that, they put some crush and run to build up the shoulder, but I'm not too sure that's gonna hold up because it's right at a culvert and the water spreads out, and
Okay.
I don't think that's gonna be a permanent fix. And it was bad. If you met a car, the person on the right-hand side, you were gonna hit that spot that it
Okay,
broken
yeah.
away.
Where the crush and run was at.
Well, that's where they put the crush and run.
Yeah.
But prior to that, it was just a
Yeah.
pothole. And
But the crush and run sounds like a temporary fix. And
Right.
I overheard a conversation today about 2 offices down from mine about extending a pipe right there.
right, yeah, that both places need to
Yeah,
have the pipe
okay.
extended. Yep.
Gotcha. I'm gonna write down to find out more details, and I'll give you a call and let you know
We
what I
appreciate that. Yep.
Any other questions? Lou, you got anything for Scott?
No.
Anyone else? Thank you for being here.
Okay, well,
We
thank you.
appreciate it.
I will definitely be here 7:30 next month.
It's been a practice of ours at 7:30 to go to our public participation, but we've got 2 more, hold on just one second, Rob. We've got 2 more just quick updates. We're gonna do those before we do, so if you're on the phone, hold on just a minute or 2 if you would. Scott, do you have anything as an update from the town?
Yes, sir. This won't take more than about an hour, so I'll
There you
be
go.
very
That's
brief.
right.
We'll see you next month.
I just wanted to give you all a few updates from the town perspective. Last time I was here, I believe, was in February. Since then, in March, the town council passed a resolution so that town employees can now be part of Virginia retirement system, which will help us greatly in attracting and the future for our employees. In April, we celebrated actually the 151st anniversary of the Farmville Volunteer Fire Department, but we couldn't do it last year. So there was a parade on Main Street, and they got together out at the sports arena. So we do celebrate them for that long of a period of service to our community. Airport construction, we have a new relocation of the access road. So when you go by the golf course and you go up the road a little bit, you're going to veer to your right and go around, and it's all fenced in on that side. And so that's part of FAA's requirement for security and also so that the airport can expand. I will share with you this, and I have spoken to Mr. Stanley about this, and also the county administrator in Cumberland. I want to get also Buckingham involved and the higher education institutions to have a discussion of whether the theory of a region, an authority for the airport or a commission would be something of interest, in that all of us benefit in some way from that, in that we all have a seat at the table instead of just the town being overseeing that. And so in the next couple weeks or month, that is my goal, to get a group together. Upcoming, obviously, the town will be having their council meeting next week. We have a public hearing on a potential real estate tax increase, which will be the first one, I believe, as far back as I can go with documents of 1980s, probably longer than that. Also, will be a public hearing on the 21-22 budget. Capital improvement program will be a part of that. The biggest item for the capital improvement program next year is to mill and pave on West 3rd Street from Industrial Park Road all the way to Buffalo Creek Bridge. And that part of that road needs a lot of work, and that's our goal for next year. That's the largest cost of capital improvement wise for a major project. This year, summer camp, we're having some turnover in our recreation department, and so we deem necessary that, and we're looking at how we can collaborate, obviously, not just with the county, but also with other stakeholders. And we're going to collaborate with the YMCA. Instead of both of us having summer camp, we're going to do it together. And we're going to use the sports arena so that it's more space. So it's kind of going to just go from the daycare service that's been going on there that we all collaborated on into a summer camp program for the kids, not only in obviously the town of Farmville, but that benefits the county as well. Some other changes upcoming. In the current budget year, we weren't able to fill some organizational position changes to help our organization. So with this upcoming year, we're going to hopefully fill a director of finance position, a community development director position, and a recreation director position. The council is planning to adopt the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which was done a few years ago, but never formally adopted. So that'll be coming up. And over the rest of this current calendar year, one of the goals of the council for me is also to amend our town charter. It's somewhat outdated, and there's a lot of things in it that could be changed. And so we're looking at updating the town charter as well. And don't miss also, there's going to be a public hearing next week on a proposed allowance of a new type of business, and that is a party bike. And so we'll see if that takes hold. And so we have a new attraction downtown, in that somebody can hop on a bike. I don't know if any of you've ever been to Nashville or some of those other places where you can get on a bike. It's somewhat motorized, but if you pedal, you can go to different food establishments or drinking establishments. Well, here it's restaurants. That's all it is. And the only caveat is you're not going to be allowed to actually have any beverages on the party bike, because that's not allowed under the current ABC law. And so, but they've got a plan. There's a business that's interested, and I think it'll add a new type of adventurous business to the town. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Scott?
I'll say that I'm waiting for the mayor to issue that challenge. It's the party bike challenge.
Scott, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Lou's got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
One little thing you might check on, my business is on West Third Street.
Yes, sir.
In the last few years, there have been 2 major pipeline ruptures in the middle of the road. And I was told that ductile iron pipe is 60-plus years old. I'd hate to see you pave it, and when we get another rupture,
I understand.
might check on that a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank y'all.
Probably one quick. Ms. Johnson, are you online? Dr. Johnson?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I had to unmute myself. Yes,
All right.
sir.
We're going to turn it over to you for an update on the school.
Okay, so good evening. Thank you very much, Chairman Emmerich, Mr. Stanley, and the Board of Supervisors in its entirety for inviting me this evening. I do appreciate that. There are a few things that I want to share with you this evening. Just today, Ms. Carson, our chair, and Ms. Beulah Womack, our vice chair, and I met with the state superintendent for the Virginia Department of Education, as well as with the chairman of the State Board of Education to share with them updates and things that are happening in Prince Edward County. They provided us with kudos for all of the work that we are doing around curriculum, our new calendar development. Their statement is that we are on the right trajectory as we continue to maneuver through these very difficult times. And so it was very positive to receive quality feedback from the state superintendent today. And again, we provided them with quite a bit of data to show all of the efforts that we are making as we are trying to improve our school system. So having said that, there are several other things that are going on in the school system. I'd like to remind everyone that graduation, we are having an in-person graduation this year. It is May 22nd, 2021 at 10 a.m. at the Reverend L. Francis Griffin Auditorium or Gymnasium. So it's at our middle school as it usually is. We are very, very excited. As you know, things were shut down this time last year, so we were not able to do an in-person graduation. So we are very excited about that over the next 2 weeks. We also have pre-kindergarten and kindergarten registration going on. Because of the pandemic, we did not have as many pre-K students as we normally have. We usually have about 100. This year, we only had about 43. So we do have about 100 slots. Actually, we have none. So if you know of any little person that should be enrolled in pre-K this year, we are definitely receiving applications for pre-K. Also want to share with you that we are in the middle of SOL testing, standards of learning testing. That is all of the month of May, and it actually started in April. Those are the tests that determine usually accreditation, which has been waived for this year just because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But we are in the middle of testing, so it's a very hectic season for us from that perspective. And I know that I'm going fast, but I also recognize that you have several things on your agenda in public hearings. So forgive me, and I absolutely will answer any questions that you may have about anything that I am saying. I'd also like to share, and thank you very much, Mr. Stanley and Ms. Puckett, that we are hosting at the middle school on the 18th of May, which is next Tuesday. We usually host a food market once a month for any community member that needs groceries or food or supplies. And this month, next Tuesday, we are combining that with a vaccine clinic sponsored by the Piedmont Department of Health with the assistance of, again, Mr. Stanley and Ms. Puckett. So thank you all very much for that assistance. We are also having a vaccine webinar sponsored by the Piedmont Health Department and all of our local school divisions, and Prince Edward County Public Schools is hosting that via our Zoom technology. And that is Monday, the 17th at 6 p.m. And Dr. Adekoya will be facilitating that, and it is called Adolescents and the COVID-19 Vaccine. So we encourage all of our community members, particularly those with children, to watch, participate in the webinar, as she will be providing the science behind the vaccines, and the vaccines specifically for young children or children 16 and older. So we encourage you to watch and participate in that. We have, let's go to our capital improvement plan. There's been much in the news about the capital improvement plans and process that has now been implemented by you and your board. We thank you very much for that process. We have submitted 2 applications. One has to do with the elementary school rebuild/renovation, and the other has to do with the high school track. And so, Mr. Stanley, your office should be in receipt of those 2 applications, and we look forward to working with you as you work through the process of capital improvement, and as we work through the possibilities of renovations and/or rebuilds. And as I take a breath, I do believe that is everything that I have to share. Those are the most prominent updates. And I think I did it all in 5 minutes or less. So do you have any questions for me?
I don't think at this point there are any questions. We appreciate it. Go ahead, Doug.
I just want to thank Dr. Johnson for not only helping us hold and host the vaccine clinic, but help us put the word out to those in the community, particularly the parents of the children in the school system. We are eagerly awaiting word this week that they will expand offering the Pfizer to ages 12 and up, and so we're looking forward to that. Ultimately, if we can get a lot of our school children vaccinated, that will help us get our community closer to herd immunity. So we thank you very much, Dr. Johnson. And also, I am in receipt of your capital improvement request, and we as well look forward to working with you through the process of the next few months.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, Robbie, we're ready for you now.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Our first public hearing is to consider the consideration of a milk processing facility with a retail store. The county received this application from Israel Yoder, doing business as Country Corner Dairy. This is primarily a cheese facility. They will have a storefront. In your application packet, you've seen a site plan. It's a single building primarily. The Planning Commission held their public hearing. This was duly advertised, and no one spoke for or against this application. The applicant's not here tonight, but they were in receipt of the 16 recommended conditions by the Planning Commission, and were accepting of those, and I'll be happy to answer any question. This is located on tax map parcel 073-A-9 on County Line Road, Cullen, Virginia.
At this point, I'm going to open it up to public participation. Is there anyone online that would like to speak to this, either for or against? Hearing none, I'm going to close public participation and open it up to the board for discussion. Are there any questions or anything for Robbie?
Now, you said that was in Cullen. Cullen is usually Charlotte County, but this is in Prince Edward.
Yes, ma'am. This is on the Prince Edward side of County Line Road,
You're right.
County Line Road.
Yep. Cullen address, but it's in Prince Edward County.
Oh, I'm definitely familiar with the area. So probably near the end of that road.
That's correct, right
Right,
there, right
okay.
there at the end.
Gotcha.
That is correct.
Yes, the Yoder residence is right below this.
That's right. I'll just say on behalf of the people who actually applied for this, they called me this morning and said they'd be glad to be here if they needed to be, and they would, of course, they don't have telephones, so they would not be on the phone or online. But they certainly did appreciate everything that you've done, Robbie, as far as helping them guide them through, and that they were accepting of whatever the board decided to do. But they certainly hope that the board would vote in favor of, but that they did thank you for what you've done. So I just want to let you know, they want to make sure that I made that aware.
I think it'd be a great asset to that area, and also generate some activity as far as for the farm end of it, and people visiting facilities, so I'd like to make a motion that we allow the Israel Yoder to process, run a grade M processing milk facility at that location in Prince Edward County.
I'll second it.
All right, there's been a motion made and seconded to, I'm going to call for the vote. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Yes.
Lou? Now, with that, go
Just want
ahead.
to clarify that that includes the conditions.
I was going to
Yeah.
say,
Right,
that
yeah.
does clarify
The 16 conditions.
the 16 conditions along with it, therefore, that needs to be duly noted in our motion. And that passes unanimous. All right, Robert, you're up again.
Yes, sir. If you have me just 1 second.
Take your time. I need to get called paperwork too.
Our second public hearing is to consider an application for a special use permit from Prince Edward CSG LLC for the operation of a 5.12 megawatt DC, 4.0 watt megawatt AC community solar generation facility. This is on tax map parcel 057-A-11 with an address of 14100 Thomas Jefferson Highway, Pamplin. This public hearing was duly advertised in the Farmville Herald and notification sent to property owners. The Planning Commission held their public hearing. Prior to that public hearing, as pursuant to Virginia Code 15.2-2232, they reviewed the proposed development for its consistency with the comprehensive plan and found it to be substantially in compliance. We held the public hearing and no one spoke in opposition to this application. The Planning Commission did recommend 16 conditions, which are in your package of information. Also want to make a note that I work closely with this applicant. This is their first application under your new alternate energy facilities. This application did address all items that we list in there to be considered. Your board packet's pretty thick this month, but it's required due to the application requirements. So if you have any questions of me on some of that information, I'll try to answer it. The applicant is on the line. I think they have 4 representatives that can better address some of those items, and I believe they have a presentation to present.
All right, at this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing for this particular solar generation. It's open to the public. Someone online to address.
Absolutely. I'm Daniel Langston. I'm a landscape architect with Christopher Consultants. We have been helping the applicant put together this application. On the line with us, we have Nick Walsh. He's the Vice President of Development for Dimension Renewable Energy. Also on the line, we have Ben Rosner, who is the environmental consultant for this project with Wetland Studies and Solutions. And we also have our economic consultant, Fletcher Mangum, with Mangum Economics. We do have a presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Well, I have been disabled from participant screen sharing, so I don't know if that's possible that we will be able to share unless somebody gives me the green light. Is that possible?
Give us just a minute or two. We're working on it.
All right. It looks like I have it now, so I appreciate that. And here we go. So as mentioned, this is a community solar project. The applicant is Prince Edward CSG LLC. On the line, as I mentioned, we have Nick Walsh with Dimension Renewable Energy. He's stepping in this evening for Kieran Seow, who's been representing the applicant on these projects, but he had a conflict this evening. So Nick is here and he's going to kind of go through the introduction on what Dimension Renewable Energy does, give a brief overview of what community solar is versus utility scale solar, a bit of the project overview, next steps, and we'll have room for questions at the end. So Nick, feel free to take it away.
Great, thanks Daniel. And thank you, Chairman and Board of Supervisors. Appreciate you guys hearing us tonight, and I want to thank the staff and the Planning Commission for working with Kieran and Daniel and the rest of our team to get us to this point. And you'll see at the end of the presentation, Kieran's contact information is there. You can feel free to reach out to him with further questions or certainly I'm available as well. But happy to be here with you this evening. So yeah, we'll run through this. As Daniel mentioned, I'm the Vice President of Development for Dimension Renewable Energies. We're a company that focuses primarily on renewable energy projects, typically small-scale solar and battery storage projects. In this case, it's community solar, which is our primary focus. We're developing in a number of different markets, Northeast and out West. Our team is comprised of folks with decades and decades cumulatively of renewable energy experience, and we're a very well capitalized company able to get through the development processes. Community solar projects, as I'll get into in a little bit, are grid-tied connected systems. The projects we look at are typically in the 4 to 5 megawatt range, which from a land area perspective is usually 20 to 30 acres of property. Dimension in our team, in our experience, has put together over 1 gigawatt of solar and raised, as you can see, quite a bit in financing for these projects, and we're rapidly building on a pipeline of projects, which is going to get up over 800 megawatts over the next few years. So a lot of experience in our company. Our headquarters are in Atlanta, Georgia. We've got an office in New York, which is where I work out of, and we've got an office in San Francisco, as well as a few folks working remotely throughout the country. A little bit about our process. So our goal is to be very efficient and really develop only sites that we have a high level of confidence are going to work and be able to end up with an actual project built on them. We start out with economic analysis. This is typically looking at legislation and programmatic activity within any given state or utility, really with a primary focus, as I mentioned earlier, on community solar, the development of community solar programs. Once we know there's going to be a program in place, we'll go ahead and send out our land acquisition specialists who will look for sites with a number of different desired characteristics, but primarily sites that are close to utility substations, sites that we can avoid environmental impacts, avoid streams, minimize tree clearing, those kind of things. We really like to develop relationships with our landowners and work closely with them as we go into the contracting process, which is either a long-term leasing or in some cases purchasing of the properties. At that stage, once we've got the sites, my team, the development team, takes over, and we will work with local experts like Daniel, like Ben, who's on the phone as well, and their teams to fully understand the parameters around developing a project like this in the jurisdiction that we're working within, and then early outreach to the public, to the neighbors, so we can get their feedback and make sure that's addressed very early on, and outreach to government officials, outreach to the county in this case, and talking to representatives there to make sure that we are following all the rules and trying to operate within the ordinances as they stand. Once we have our approvals and we get through that process, we have a number of willing partners to finance these projects. In some cases, the projects will end up with other owners to own and operate for their lifetimes. In some cases, we will hang on to them ourselves. And once the projects are under construction, we will then have outreach to the community to enroll in our community solar project. And once we're finished with construction and ready to energize the project, we will have that project fully subscribed, hopefully by residents primarily within Prince Edward County. So a little bit about community solar, if you're not familiar yet. It is new to the state of Virginia, so you may not be. These are programs that are popping up throughout the country, state by state. And what community solar is, it's really an alternative for folks who may want to buy solar energy for their home, for their business, but are unable to either afford to purchase a solar system on their own, or don't have the right characteristics. They might have too much shading or not enough roof space or not enough land, don't have the characteristics to be able to house a solar facility on their own site. And so what community solar does is it allows for a concentration of all that interest. So a number of different homeowners can subscribe to this system, and then the power from this system will be credited to them through the utility at a discounted price. So folks in the area that want to subscribe can get their power at a reduced cost from what Dominion would typically be charging them, and know that it's clean, renewable energy if that's something that's important to them. The program here in Virginia right now is set at 200 megawatts, and the project size is 5 megawatt AC capped. As was indicated in our intro, we're just under that at 4 megawatts at AC. So subscribers can sign up. It's a very flexible contract. There are no cancellation penalties. If folks move within Dominion territory, they can take that subscription with them, and again, they'll save money on their typical electric bill. The other element to these programs, and here in Virginia, it's a 30% offtake for low income. Another barrier to folks getting solar and signing up for power purchase agreements, which you might be familiar with, is oftentimes there are economic or credit restrictions, which is not the case with community solar programs. So these are programs that allow for small scale solar projects within a community, for community offtake. Those electrons can stay within a community, and it can cater to folks that solar has not been able to cater to up until this point. What you're probably familiar with is utility scale solar, which again, community solar is new to Virginia. The program is just in its infancy here, so you probably haven't seen much of it yet, but there are some key differences which I think are important to point out. So utility scale solar are generally those huge fields that you see, 20 to 100 megawatts. So that's 100 to 500 acres of land. That power is typically going right to the utility, and can be utilized in all sorts of different ways. Sometimes going out of state, sometimes staying in state. So very different in terms of the scale of these projects. As indicated here, we're looking at up to 25 acres as opposed to 100 to 400 plus. These smaller solar projects are easy to screen from view. Typically that's one of the concerns that comes up with the public. You'll see in this case how the project is very much hidden from view from existing vegetation, as well as a berm on the street, and Daniel will run through that with you. The larger projects are much more difficult to screen, so viewing them is hard to avoid. And then again, offtake is primarily residential customers, so the residents of the county will benefit if they should choose to subscribe to this rather than this going straight to the utility.
Thanks, Nick. So jumping into the specific project at hand, so this is located at 14100 Thomas Jefferson Highway. This parcel, overall it's an 87 acre parcel, but the project footprint is within 20 acres. As already mentioned, this system is going to be a 4 megawatt AC, which is where for the purposes of the program, the power wattage is, or the output is measured in AC. So 4 megawatts, single axis tracker system. And that amount of power generated would power approximately 800 homes. So the interconnection for this project, it'll be along the existing Dominion line. If you can see my cursor here on the screen, there's an existing Dominion line along Thomas Jefferson Highway where the project will be connecting into. And it's bordered to the west here by the Norfolk Southern Railroad line. So in between the fence line and Thomas Jefferson Highway, we have over 150 feet from the edge of pavement to the fence line. And even within the fence line, there's 20 or so feet to the first set of panels. One of the things that we liked about this particular site, and one of the reasons it was selected, is that there's substantial existing tree stands on the site that we're able to maintain through the design of this project. To the north and east and south of the project, as many trees as possible will be saved. You can kind of see here it's in a light gray, but around the perimeter of this project, the existing tree stands will be saved to the extent possible. So Prince Edward, this project, they have specific code requirements, as you know, for solar facilities. This is located within an agricultural zoning district per the code. So we are compliant with the setbacks. The required setbacks from buildings, public right-of-ways is 75 feet. And as mentioned, given the existing buffer and with the Norfolk Southern Railroad, we're about 130 feet from our property line to the right-of-way of Thomas Jefferson Highway. We're at least 50 feet as required from any adjoining properties, closer to 100 feet from even the closest properties. And obviously the required height maximum for projects is 20 feet. And these projects are going to be closer to 15 feet at the most extreme angle of these panels. So we're compliant with our setbacks. And then with visual screening, we'll be utilizing the existing vegetative cover on the site, as previously mentioned. And the site topography, as we'll get into here shortly, is another benefit for the existing site to help screen. Where there is gaps in the existing vegetation, we're proposing a new evergreen landscape buffer. So just wanted to kind of give some reference points for the site. We're kind of coming from the south, we're going to be going north. These photos were taken early April, prior to the Planning Commission hearing, so you have a pretty good understanding of what the current site conditions look like. You can kind of see the site entrance right there to the right is where we will be bringing in the access road. It's the existing driveway, and it'll be improved to handle the construction of the site. So same access point on Thomas Jefferson Highway, but you can see where the berm on either side of the railroad line starts to give a little bit of cover in screening already. As we move down Thomas Jefferson Highway, you can see how extensive that berm is, and there's existing vegetation as well. We're about kind of midpoint of where the panel array will be here, looking straight across, and you can see it covered nicely. Still, you have that berm, and if you're a vehicle moving along this stretch of the road at any clip, you probably will never see this project, especially considering the proposed vegetative screening will include. You can see another spot looking a little bit kind of at the edge of the proposed facility, and then kind of looking back towards the proposed facility, you see the berm again, lots of screening. So obviously there are some gaps. Basically, we showed some pictures here. You can see where there's this gap in the screening. We are proposing new plantings per the county requirements for landscaping. So obviously trying to be good neighbors and screen where there would be gaps, and want to make sure that we meet the county's requirements for screening of this project. Going back to that third photo that we saw where you can kind of see through a little bit, we propose to enhance on our property behind it, so you can kind of see where it's filled in with an evergreen screen behind the existing trees so that you get good coverage. And again, you're unlikely to see this given the topography, but also the existing and proposed landscaping. So at a high level, that's this particular project. We're happy to take any questions, and if the board has anything for us or the other consultants on the line, we're happy to take questions.
Quick question. This is David Emmert, the board chairman. You said that you all were 130 feet off of the right-of-way. You said Thomas Jefferson. The right-of-way would have to be off of Norfolk and Southern. That would be a public right-of-way also, wouldn't it?
My understanding is that Norfolk Southern is, I mean, I guess they're more like a quasi-public agency would be my understanding. I think under all of our kind of understandings, they operate more like a private entity, but that may be a question we would need to clarify with Robert.
He's here. I'm going to ask. Do you know if that's true, Robert? If that's a
I don't have a definitive answer on it. Look at my understanding is it does say right of way, but I think they do have in their site plan, they are adequately buffered off of the railroad as well to meet the minimum of the ordinance where the site plan is addressed. So while they do meet the minimum standard, they reference, of course, where they were from the highway. We've had a lot of discussion with them because Thomas Jefferson is a scenic byway. We want to protect that. So I think that's why that's in the presentation. But obviously, they would meet the setback requirements from Norfolk Southern Railroad.
one more quick question or comment. One, just to be completely transparent, I think that all the vegetation right there is actually on the state right-of-way or the right-of-way of Norfolk Southern also. Is that correct? It's not on Mr. Alt's property.
Well, I would say there is a portion of it that is on Mr. Alt's property. It's hard to tell given some of the photographs, but there are stands of existing vegetation on the Alt property. Yes, the majority of that existing screening is on the Norfolk Southern right-of-way. That is correct.
That's all the questions I have. Anything else from the board?
The only statement I'll make is the same thing I made to the planning commission. It is kind of disappointing to me to see that the county is only receives $1,753 in tax revenue from this each year when this is a multi-million-dollar project. And of course, they made a comment about the 23 jobs, which is great. People who work in our county, but obviously these will be people from outside our county. I'm sure that would be the majority of the jobs filled there. So that's just a comment I got to make.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Stanley. How would it be assessed and taxed? Would it be done State Corporation Commission, or would it be done through the Commissioner of Revenue's office?
I know, let me say this. If you're over 5 megawatts in the state of Virginia, you can do it two ways. One is machinery and tools assessed by the local office, and the other is you can do a revenue sharing agreement for larger facilities over 5 megawatts. And the agreement can go up to $1,400 per megawatt generated back to the locality on an annual basis. However, under 5 megawatts, I just was on a VACO call today where they were talking about taxation of solar facilities. This one is purely based on the real estate rate. Of course, even their estimates of $1,020 will drop a little bit because we're down at 47 cents now. But there's very little revenue generated from these smaller facilities. And I think that's one of the things that VACO is trying to lobby in Richmond to be able to have a little bit more equity for these facilities versus the larger ones. So Supervisor Jones is right. It does not generate much in tax revenue for localities. And I will say this, on the other side, on the larger, that machinery and tools, of course, we depreciate the machinery and tools pretty heavy.
on the books, and that also counts against you in the composite index. The revenue sharing on the larger facilities does not count against the locality in the composite index. That's why I've told folks that have talked to us that, yeah, we'd like to look at the revenue sharing as an alternative so it doesn't hit us twice, so to speak. But no, unfortunately, it's based on the real estate tax rate, and it is what it is.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Lou.
This is Lou Gillum, that's in my district. I had one individual ask me the other day if I would check on, excuse me, the reflection of sunlight back from solar panels to the ozone. You know, it's a lot of concern about the ozone being burnt off and global warming, and they just were thinking about it. Have you done any studies of these solar panels reflecting light back, maybe affecting the ozone from the bottom? That's question one. And number two is this entrance coming in off the road, is the railroad, are you all planning on putting up any crossing signs for equipment to get in and out? Because it is freight trains that come through there at a good rate of speed to be safe, you know, for equipment getting in and out.
I'm happy to address the first one and then take a stab at the second one and maybe ask, Daniel for some feedback on that. But so the first question about reflection, solar panels are, and not the first time I've heard that. I think it's a common maybe misconception, just because solar panels do have a glass component, obviously, but solar panels are engineered and designed and built to absorb sunlight. That's how they generate their power. So there's a very small percentage of that sunlight that is then kind of reflected back in a glare sense. Certainly not enough that's going to burn off anything within the atmosphere. They are made with typically reflective or anti-reflective coatings. So yes, there's been the answer. That's kind of the short answer. And then there are numerous studies about glare from solar. So while I definitely appreciate your constituents' concern about environmental effects, I guess you can go back to them and tell them that it's certainly not a problem. The reflectivity of these panels is relatively minimal. It's certainly not enough to
I'll pass that back to them. I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah. Yep, no problem. And then secondly, I don't know, Daniel, if you have any, what I would just say is that the time period where there's going to be any significant traffic is relatively short during the construction phase of a few months. After that, there'll be very, very minimal traffic crossing into the solar field. So I think we can certainly consider some type of temporary warning, or I'm not exactly sure how to tackle that. I think probably a permanent structure of lights or gates or that kind of thing may not be necessary because of the very limited traffic flow in there. When I say limited, it's a couple cars, a couple vehicles a year probably.
Yeah, and just to piggyback there, Nick, agreed. I mean, the most significant traffic that's going to be generated for this project is during the construction phase. So I think in the long term, one other point before I keep moving on, this is a lease agreement with this landowner. So the landowner will still be living on the site. They're just leasing a portion of this property to the applicant for the purposes of the solar facility. And, long term, having a crossing at the, at this particular site entrance, I don't know that makes sense long term. Obviously, safety will be a concern. And I think, the construction team will probably have some kind of plan in place to address that, for trucks coming in and out of the site during construction, but it is going to be a relatively short amount of time during the whole development process that which you might consider significant construction or significant traffic impacts would occur. And we do have sample schedules of construction that we can provide if that's something that needs to be reviewed, but it is certainly not a concern on our end.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to open up the public comment section of public hearing part of this and allow is there anyone on the phone that would like to address this either for or against, or in the audience, either one? If not, I will close the public hearing part and leave the discussion up to the board. Rob, is there anything else that you have? I guess I ask you if there's anything else you have to say to us.
No, sir, I do not.
If there's no further discussion, I'd like to move approval with any contingencies that the Bobby's group put on there.
I second that.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded to call for the vote for this with the existing, I guess, 16 recommendations that go along with this. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, in that case, I'll call for the question. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim? Bobby? Jerry?
Yes.
Lou?
Yes.
So moved then. All right.
I need to go back to Jake Morgan out there.
I'm getting ready to head that direction. Jake Morgan with the Extension Agent in Prince Edward County. Sorry to keep you waiting, just worked out that way.
I do have some handouts for you guys to follow along with. I asked permission if it was okay to give those to you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's basically just an outline of the
I
flyer.
can pass it down.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. First and foremost, I wanted to say thank you for inviting me here to talk to you guys today. This is my first time addressing the board in this manner, so be patient with me. What you have, what I've given you, basically one of them is just an outline, and the other one is impact story about Virginia Cooperative Extension and the impact on the community. My favorite picture is right there on the front. That just kind of shows you what 4-H does for the community. I asked her permission, her mother's permission, of course, to share that picture, and she was very willing. I'll get to that program later about what she's so happy about. On the second page, kind of outlines where our funding comes from. You'll see that it comes from state, federal, and of course, local. But the one number I wanted to point out was the return on investment for every dollar invested by the county. That's just to show you that that your funds are being invested in the community properly, and hopefully we're making good use of those funds. So again, I'm here representing Virginia Cooperative Extension. My name is Jake Morgan. I'm the unit coordinator and, more importantly, the 4-H Youth Development Extension Agent. On the front page of the handout I gave you is just an outline of some of the mission and visions of the Extension Office, I guess. I'm sorry, I'm at a loss of words. But Virginia Cooperative Extension has a number of program areas, agriculture and natural resources, of course, 4-H Youth Development, and family and consumer sciences. In interest of time, I'd like to go through some of the recent accomplishments and some of the goals that our office has for the future. Right now, our office consists of Shilda Daniels. She's our unit administrative assistant, and she's the backbone of the office. Couldn't do it without her. Also, Bailey Anderson is filling in for the role of agricultural and natural resources agent. She is a temporary hire. That position should be becoming open this summer, and she has been proving herself to hopefully be able to step into that role very well. She's doing a great job. I asked her to share with me some of the accomplishments she wanted me to share and some of her goals. I'm not going to read every word here, but I'm going to hit the highlights. If you have any questions, I'll be certainly glad to answer them. She was able to work with surrounding counties to do a fruit tree troubleshooting workshop. She was able to work with do a gardening 101 program. That was actually a collaboration with 4-H, where it was targeted towards the homeschool community, and some families came in. It was actually the Piedmont Soil and Water Conservation District actually had a hand in it too. So we were able to collaborate and offer a really beneficial program. It was one of the first in-person programs that we've been able to deliver in a long time. So it's been very nice, and it's kind of a way to get our feet wet with how to do programming with the necessary precautions. So one of my favorite things that she offers is the Weed ID Wednesday. Every week, she picks a weed that is currently out and can be identified in the field. The goal of these posts is to assist people in identifying common weeds in the area, inform them of the weed and its life cycle, the benefits or disadvantages they have, and how to control them mechanically and chemically. If you've ever seen that post through Facebook or social media, you can tell the effort that she's put into that, and the response from the community has been really nice too. It's something that's immediately applicable to people's surroundings, so it's been nice. We also put on a well water testing clinic. I think in upwards of 30 participants was able to send their tap water, their household water off to get tested at professionals at Virginia Tech, and that was also that's been the first clinic that's been put forth in a while, so people were appreciative of that. She also does a number of field visits, and I think that's something that people really appreciate too. If there's a problem that can't be addressed by getting in touch with specialists or other people in the field, she'll go out there herself, or the agent will go out there themselves and take a look. And sometimes specialists have accompanied the agent to take a look and help address what exactly is going on. So field visits is a very important role that the ag agent does. Some future goals: she wants to get a commercial pesticide license so she can re-up people's licenses in the area. She wants to put on a beef quality assurance certification and recertification program. She wants to do forage and hay quality programming. There's more details under these, but I don't want to read them word for word. Y'all, if it interests you, you can ask questions. She wants to do vegetable gardening and backyard poultry programming. I'm personally excited about this. The 4-H will definitely be collaborating with that effort, because that's something that kids and families alike are really getting into these days. Soil testing, hay sampling, and she wants to better advertise our free resources. I'm not particularly fond of extension being the best kept secret. That's something that we hear a lot. We're trying to get our word out there more, so people can take advantages of the resources that we have available. On the 4-H, that's my role, of course. Some of the recent accomplishments: Junior 4-H Camp is probably our flagship program. Every summer we have a overnight, week-long camp that participants can sign up for, and they go to Holiday Lake 4-H Educational Center, and it's a beneficial week for the campers, the teens that are in the supervisory roles, and even the adults. I come away very excited about what the youth has to offer our community. So it's a win for everybody. I would actually like, this is off the cuff, but if anyone would like to visit and take a look at what goes on during summer camp at the overnight camp, I would love to have that, and I would make you feel welcome and show you everything that's going on there. So moving on, Camp Loud and Clear is another summer camp. It's a weekend camp that is aimed towards the deaf and hard of hearing. It's actually, I think Kids have come from nationwide to attend this camp. It was, I think the farthest one came from Texas a couple years ago. And this program was actually started by Jennifer Bowen. She was the extension agent before me. I had some really big shoes to fill when she came, when I came in, but it's still offered through Prince Edward, and it's still at Holiday Lake. So we're really proud to still offer that program. Okay, moving on through the rest of these. The past year has been very, very challenging for everyone, of course. It's been especially challenging for me. My main job is to offer programs for kids to develop more so than they would in a traditional classroom or in another sense. And the motto for 4-H is to learn by doing. And it's hard to learn by doing if you can't be there together, hands-on, experiencing that. So I learned a lot this year, and it was a challenge, but I believe I overcame that challenge. We learned a lot that I'll be able to take along with me through programming for years to come. So the first two, the virtual embryology program and the Wonder Video programs, were mainly a video that the student or the kids could follow along with, and they could ask questions and correspond and communicate through social media and email and phone and things of that nature. But it was mostly a video, a virtual program. And I noticed pretty quick, especially after the virtual schools and stuff had started, that was not very popular. The kids were kind of done. So I came up with more of a hybrid idea, that the kids come, they pick up materials and stuff from the office, they pick up instructional material. There is a link for us to get together periodically to talk about goals, successes, failures, and such. And what I think has been successful, and I plan to carry on in the future, is that hybrid aspect of being able to come get the materials, get the hands-on aspect, you're working with actual stuff, and the virtual aspect where it's the convenience of home, but you're not necessarily just watching a screen to learn. So a couple of those were the fall bucket garden program. The participants came and they picked up a couple buckets. They were already pre-drilled for drainage. They had screens in the bottom. They had potting soil and seeds, instructional materials. And it was one of my more popular programs up to date. It was very well received. My truck was loaded down with buckets and potting soil. So it was interesting, but it was very well received, and it encouraged me to keep going. The next one of that hybrid model with the virtual neighborhood chefs, I collaborated with Fish and Pig, North Street Press Club, and Farmville Applebee's. And a representative from each establishment agreed to have us record them preparing a dish and preparing a recipe. And the participants that signed up were able to come and get a box or bag of ingredients. They got the recipe, and they got links to additional resources. And the day after, or maybe the day after that, there was a premiere where the video would come on. They could watch the video and they could follow along and prepare their recipe at home with the family and learn some simple culinary skills in the process. Super popular. Parents are asking for the next version of that to come out very soon. Moving on. I'm sorry. I'm kind of getting rambling, but Gardening 101, like I talked about earlier, the Earth Day Plant a Tree event. We have a very strong horse and pony club that is under a very long waiting list at the point. So if you know anyone that would be willing to volunteer to run a horse club, there's the opportunity is there. The Virginia Tech has given us a lot of opportunities for professional development, personal growth, leadership opportunities. A couple I want to highlight are I recently got certified in shooting education and wilderness first aid, and I'll talk about that in a little bit with my future goals. So my future goals, first and foremost, getting back into the classrooms, offering after-school programming again. When we had our last situational analysis, which is where we get the feedback from the public, it was noted that the parents really wanted more extracurricular activities for their kids, primarily after school. So I'll hit the ground running with that. And I think it was my second year, we had 3 to 4 days every week where we had an after-school program available where we provided transportation back and forth from the schools. It was open to the public, private, and homeschool community. But they varied from STEM, cooking, sewing, entomology, gardening. There were a variety of topics that these after-school programs addressed. Very popular, and I'm looking forward to getting back into that and into the classrooms. The Outdoor Living Skills and Adventure Program, that's a program I want to start hopefully this fall, and is why I got certified in wilderness first aid. We'll be hiking, we'll be outside camping and stuff, and I wanted to be in a position where I felt comfortable giving aid if needed. And that was a very challenging certification, but very much worth it. Also, something that we would take very seriously and being certified in to instruct is the Prince Edward 4-H Shooting Sports Education Program. A lot of counties have a shooting sports education program. I need to come up with a better name. That'll come up soon enough. But I currently have 2 certified instructors, myself and one other volunteer that has stated that they would like to help. On the video earlier, Daniel Jordan is another person that is interested in helping with that program. So a familiar face there. Also, Tech Changemakers is a program where teens in the community will help adults become more comfortable with technology so that they can be more productive. They can get into they can be more comfortable with technology and be more productive, for lack of better words, in the community with doing the social media and anything technology. And of course, I want to do more of the neighborhood chefs programs. That is all I have. I wanted to thank you guys for letting me talk. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
The commercial pesticide license, it says that Bailey, I don't know about the category 10, but do y'all offer classes for that, or do you come out? I know you had an extension agent up in Campbell County that would come out to the facilities and facilitate a class for like herbicide, pesticide license.
I'm trying to find this year. I am not personally familiar with what exactly commercial category 10 refers to, but I know if commercial growers, commercial providers would like to use certain chemicals on their fields, they have to have a pesticide license in order to administer that chemical on their land.
That's what I'm asking you. Do you offer that certification?
So with
Levels of it, Terry.
Right.
I have one as a farm applicator. I can do my own farm. I cannot go out and charge somebody to do it.
Right.
But like the farmer's co-op, those operators there have to get a commercial license with it.
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm
But I'm talking about in-house. I'm not talking about going out licensed. But I know you guys, 4-H, Extension does it. Because Campbell, the extension agent came out to the jail and done it and facilitated a class. That's the question I'm asking. Do you offer
So
that?
with the certification that she's referring to here, she'll be able to give a class, Mr. Jones, correct me if I'm wrong, so that other people can administer
Yeah,
those
administer the
pesticides. Yeah, so it'll be
pesticide or
in-house,
herbicide.
it would be more than likely out of our conference room at the extension office, and she would be able to provide that.
Let me get your number. I can give you a call.
Okay.
All right?
Yes, sir.
Before you leave, I'll contact you, see if she, I don't wanna bring them idea, but you probably be good.
It's gotten a whole lot more complicated than it used to be, Jerry. I know on our end.
It has.
Yeah,
It's a course.
He just done it last year up at
I know, but your
Rustburg.
commercial thing, you're gonna be,
I don't want a commercial one. I'm just wanting something in-house.
It depends on what exactly you want to administer, what exactly you want to put out there. What I would suggest, if you don't mind, I've included on this outline her email address along with my email address I should have put it at the very front. I apologize for that. But where it has our names in the outline.
Do you have an office number?
I will supply that I can actually.
It's on the front.
Is it on there?
4246, yeah.
4246.
Yeah, we're on the very front of this one, Jerry.
Of the flyer,
Yeah, on the
yeah.
bottom. It'll have it on there.
I should have made that more prominent at the top of the outline.
Okay.
I apologize.
That's okay. No, that's fine. I'll give you a call,
Yes, sir.
get in more detail.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Doug, what you got as far as the county health renewal?
All right. Thank you very much. Mary Jones and Brenda Grant, with One Digital Health Insurance Consultant, have provided 3 different options for the county's health insurance for county employees for the 21-22 fiscal year. This year, I have requested that One Digital provide some renewal options to make the county more competitive with its fringe benefits package offered to employees. I know the sheriff is here. The sheriff certainly has been in my ear since I've been here about the inability of Prince Edward to compete with some of the surrounding jurisdictions, including the town of Farmville. We can compete on the salary end, but not on the benefit side. And health insurance is a big part of that. Our current cost for family coverage is for the lower plan, the Key Care 500, $1,109 per month. That's the employee share. And $1,262 for the Key Care 300. And that ranges from $300 to $800 higher per month in the employee share of the premium when compared to many of our neighboring localities that we compete against every day. While Prince Edward is competitive in salary in most positions, the benefits costs hurt our ability to recruit and retain employees. We actually saw a 6.2% decrease in rates, but we asked county departments to include a 10% increase with the goal of trying to shift premiums to quote-unquote buy down the cost of spouse and dependent coverage. So Mary is online and Brenda is here. Brenda, wave. Brenda's here in the audience from One Digital, and they're going to do a presentation tonight for us on some different options that we looked at to try to get the cost down for the employee to make us a little bit more competitive for the coming year. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mary, and to you, Brenda.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. As Mr. Stanley indicated, the renewal actually is coming in with a slight decrease. But as you'll see, when we go through the data here, when we benchmark you to surrounding local government entities, your dependent contributions are a little out of line. So one of the goals is to try and get that more in line with the surrounding counties so that you're more competitive, hopefully from a gaining and retaining employee perspective. So we'll go through the numbers, and then, like I said, we'll go through some benchmark data. And as Mr. Stanley indicated, Brenda Grant is there in person, so certainly her or myself can answer any questions that you have. So this first slide is just really reflective of what's currently going on. So you currently offer the 2 plans. So you have the Key Care 500 and the Key Care 300. And you can see the total premium here outlined in in green is broken down by plan and by tier. So if they have employee only versus employee spouse or family by each plan. And then the blue section represents what the county is currently contributing to those premiums. And then the peach or orange section is representative or represents what the employees are contributing per month. And you'll see on the next slide, so as Mr. Stanley indicated, what we're illustrating here is the renewal. So if we were to take that 6.2% and just divide it equivocally between the county and the employees, what the impact would be, again, broken down by total premium, what the county's picking up in blue, and then the employees on a monthly basis. Then what we did is we looked at taking some of these dependent contributions for what the employee is contributing on a monthly basis, and we're trying to scale it down so that the employees aren't having to come up with so much out of pocket from a premium perspective for either plan design and shifting as minimal cost as we can to the county. So option B You can see we're shifting slightly on the rates for the employees.
Mary, if I
So-
can interject you for just a second. It's on the screen, but it's small print. So if you could maybe talk about through some of the numbers and what the changes are going, what they're going to.
Sure. I'm going to pull up the next slide because that might help. So option A, like I said, is the 6.2% decrease. So what that would look like, so the overall decrease is about $63,000 total, of which if we were to split that decrease with the employees, the county would see a decrease of about $56,000 and the employees would see a decrease of about $7,200. Option B is applying that 10% increase to current. So the total increase is about $103,000, where the county would absorb about 14.3%, which is just shy of $130,000 annually, and the employees would actually decrease by about $26,000, almost $27,000. Option C is really ultimately the option that we're recommending, because you'll see that this is looking at a 3.2% overall increase, of which the impact to the county is about $64,000, and the employees would see a decrease of about $32,000. Couple things to keep in mind is certainly this is reflective off of the enrollment as it currently stands today. So the numbers do have the potential to shift depending on where people enroll or if they add dependents and so forth through the open enrollment period. This next slide is actually pretty interesting. So when we looked at the benchmark data, so what we did is we compared Prince Edward County to 10 local governments, which included counties, cities, and towns. You can see 90% of them offer more than one plan. Many of them are offering a third plan option, which is a high deductible option, which is something that Prince Edward doesn't offer today. The employee contributions your employee contributions are in line with what we're seeing in other local governments. However, the dependent costs are slightly higher than what we're seeing, and significantly higher, depending on what data you're looking at. So the chart down here is basically just taking the 10 government entities that we looked at and just kind of giving you the minimum contribution, the maximum contribution, and the average. And it's broken down by tier. So you can see it's employee only, employee plus one, and family. And over here in the blue represents what's currently happening. So what's happening as of today and where you stack up. So on the $500 deductible plan, you're in line on the employee only, as we indicated, but you're significantly higher on the dependents. So you're at 603, where the minimum is at 101 and the average is at 361. So you're higher on the employee plus one plus the employee plus family. You're significantly higher. With the proposed option C, you can see this option gets you more in line with what your competitors are doing from the other local governments. So your employees, like I said, pretty in line, but now we're talking some real benefit to the employees who are insuring their dependents through the county, because we're looking at 398 for employee plus one versus the 603. So it's just shy of a little over $200 swing. And then for families, it's 732 versus the 1109. And same thing on the $300 plan. So you can see keeping the employees relatively the same, but then again, impacting the dependents where it comes down, significantly versus what's currently happening. So as far as, the recommendations, like I said, we're looking to recommend option C, which has, a significant impact to the employees and a minimal impact to the county as a whole. But it certainly shifts the dependent cost and gets you more in line with the benchmark. And, as I stated earlier, will help with employee recruitment and retention. When you're searching for employees, because now your benefits are in line. So I guess I will open it, a pause and open up to any questions that you all may have.
Open up to the board. Any questions from you all?
No, I like option C.
Mary, I know you don't have any names behind the neighbors, but are obviously some of these are relatively close and people we compete with, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'll just speak, because I know I just went to the jail, and I left the state, and the insurance was it was a tremendous difference. So I do feel like that was one of the things that I had to ponder over before going to the accepting that position at the jail was the insurance. It was extremely more costly in the state. So I do think, and it's not think, I do know it will enhance staff retention and far as bringing on new hires. It'll make us more competitive with the other private entities.
If I could add to that, and talk with the sheriff, you take a starting deputy salary, if you're paying $1,100, $1,200 a month, when you look at that for 12 months, maybe 30% of your entire salary is going towards healthcare if you've got a young family. And a lot of times what happens is people have to make choices. Maybe they don't get health insurance for their family. We don't want our folks to have to make that choice if we don't have to. 30% is what should go to your housing, not your health care. And so I know, Sheriff, I know you and I have talked, and that it hinders your ability to recruit, particularly if you're trying to poach somebody from another jurisdiction. It makes it tough, doesn't it?
Dispatchers make even less than a deputy, so can you imagine?
Right.
Mary, how much does it change if we raised the deductible?
So if we raise the deductible, you probably gain, it probably get the county closer to being flat. And really, if we would stick with the concept of option C, it would just bring the employee contributions down further. But of course, they would have more out of pocket on the back end at point of claim.
Yeah, what if not necessarily asking whether the county or the person, but I mean, if we raise that deductible, say to 800 or 1,000, like mine is 2,000.
Mm-hmm.
How much does that change the overall, or do you know right offhand?
I don't have the exact numbers, but just, based off of my experience in the pricing of the various plans, that $750 would be the next step, and then probably $1,000. If we went to 1,000, it would probably more than likely get the county to an overall decrease. And, again, it's going to come down probably $60,000 to $70,000.
I understand that's one of the things that you can do, but again, it makes you a little uncompetitive. Again, if somebody's looking at comparison, my suggestion would be try this tweak this year. We may see could see an appreciable shift in personnel over to the family coverage. We may need to come back and make some tweaks next year as well. Honestly, with the 6.2% decrease, we're able to do in 1 year what we're probably taking 2 or 3 years to make us competitive. I really was not thinking we would get to being competitive in a year. So I'm quite pleased that we're able to do that and really not have that significant impact. It's only really a 3% increase for the county. That leaves us a little fluff of what we budgeted in case we do see a larger migration or shift of employees. But it's all those things kind of go in the hopper about being competitive in health insurance. And that includes the deductible plans and.
When we first became self-insured, obviously the deductible went up as It didn't go up a lot, but up a little bit.
That's right, that's right.
Employees were very unhappy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know what you look at, Dave, you look at, you and myself being self-employed.
Correct.
Where the way we can afford to keep health insurance
Keep it- that's right, what keeps going up.
our deductible. But, I think we would probably get a lot of,
Feedback, yeah, I just wonder where
I
the,
know what
yeah,
you're saying.
that's a,
Yeah, and if I could chime in, the one thing I will say is, we're just not seeing a ton of shifting this year, just because of coming off of, obviously a unusual year at best. Because people are just nervous. Some people have had to use the coverage more than ever, and they're nervous about out of pockets. So we're just kind of, as a rule of thumb, with both in the public and private sector, we're not seeing a lot of shifting in plan designs this year. However, I suspect that will change next year. So to Mr. Stanley's, point, that it probably makes sense, for us to get to a point where we can make the dependent contributions more affordable for the employees and their families, and then, kind of take a step approach at this and maybe look at modifying the plans next year, may sit a little bit better with folks.
any other questions? I guess, go ahead, Jerry.
I'm gonna make a motion that we adopt plan option C.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been properly made and seconded, Ms. Pride.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty Cooper.
Yes.
Beverly.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Yes.
Bobby, Jerry.
Yes.
Lou.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, same
Thank
to
you.
you.
Sheriff, thank you for being here.
I guess something that we could look at down the road is if we went to a higher deductible, if the county would pick up the deductible, it may save us, if we literally picked up the
I
deductible.
think we threw that, tossed that around.
Did we do that?
Yeah, when we,
Went to self-insurance?
We looked at it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
Okay.
Yeah, we look at that next year. Yeah.
I just wondered if, if the county picked it up, it wouldn't go, at least the employee wouldn't have to pay that.
Yeah, right.
How many people are on the family plan?
Not many. I want to say less than half dozen.
Right.
And honestly, talking to folks, I can't afford it. And, so I don't know, whether, we'll find out whether they'll shift. My guess is you might see more of the spouse or a dependent be picked up in some cases. But, based on plans that I've seen in the past, the percentage of family and dependent coverage is pretty low, which means our folks, either we have a lot of folks who's the other spouse, they work for the school system and they're able to get picked up on insurance.
Each one can pick up.
Or it might be the age of our employees too.
Or it could be the age. Yeah, so we'll find out here the next couple months we go
I'm
through.
putting it out there.
Hey, I understand exactly what you're saying. I mean, that does come into play when you do your variables. It does come into play.
And I'll put the sheriff on the block, but the people he's recruiting are the younger folks in that 30, 40 age bracket that tend to have kids or plan to have a family. And those are the ones, as much as anybody else in the building, that I think it impacts. Sheriff, would you agree?
Down 3 positions right now. I've lost 2 since the last board meeting. And, both of them asked, what we're gonna do about the insurance. I said, well, they're gonna, vote on it at the next meeting. Well, they didn't hang around for the next meeting, they gone. One of them went to BDOT because, of course, the state insurance is gonna be a whole lot cheaper.
$200 and some a month. It's pretty cheap.
Absolutely.
You can't blame them. But, anyway, maybe now we can, I've got one certified guy that came aboard from Halifax. Hated to take him from Halifax, but someone was gonna get him, so at least we got one we're not sending to school.
That's good.
Terrific. All right, Tobacco Commission loan. Doug.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the Prince Edward County IDA has been asked to authorize the submission of an application to the Tobacco Region Revitalization Commission's Community and Business Lending Program for a $1 to $4 million loan to finance a broadband expansion project. Jim Garrett of Connex Telecom has won a contract through the RDOF auction, that's with the FCC, to provide broadband to rural census blocks that do not currently have broadband with at least 25 Mbps download speeds and 3 Mbps upload speeds. That's megabytes per second. The proposed project would deploy more than 1,100 miles of fiber optic network. The project consists of broadband fiber build-out in parts of Prince Edward, and there's a map in your packet. The areas in red there are the areas that are below the 25 Mbps download speeds. Cumberland and Lunenburg, and will provide broadband to nearly 7,600 eligible service locations. Additional details there are in the CRC memo. We've been working with the Commonwealth Regional Council on this project. The total project cost is about $25.3 million. So far, the funding includes, he has received $9,975,490 in FCC grants, which have been already awarded to Connex. He has obtained a $6 million Small Business Association 15-year loan, and he's trying to provide $6.3 million in project funding from Connex, and this is part of that process. The FCC is requiring that loan be secured by a $1 million deposit, which Mr. Garrett will need to acquire through the CBO program, which the application needs to be authorized by the IDA. It needs to have their funding in place by June 6th to satisfy the conditions of the other funding. The IDA is required to adopt a resolution that will authorize the submission of an application to the CBO program. The IDA requests the board show support of the project, possibly in the form of adopting a resolution similar to the IDA's, which is attached. The IDA is willing to call a special meeting with the board regarding the project. Terry and I are working on trying to find an agreement sample out there between a locality or an IDA and an entity like Connex to provide protection for the county. The $26 million is going into hardwire most of Prince Edward. That has a value to it. And obviously, we would be in line behind SBA and trying to go after the asset. You know, if something were to happen to Mr. Garrett or something were to happen to Connex, we're trying to make sure there's some protection for the county. But I will say this, that I got some additional updates today regarding the American Rescue Plan Act. That's the additional federal money, kind of CARES Act-like money that we're going to be receiving. We're going to receive about $4.4 million in ARPA money. And the good news is we'll have till 2024 to spend those funds. And one of the 4 areas that you can use that funding is expansion of broadband, water, and sewer in a community. There's also state funding, that was on the VACO call today, that's available. The reality is that hopefully a good portion of this up to $4 million loan from the Tobacco Commission that's basically being guaranteed by the IDA could be repaid through either a grant that we could use some of the federal funding to supplant, state VATI funding that could help fund it, to kind of buy down that number. But this certainly represents, I think, the best opportunity to get high-speed broadband to every citizen of this county that wants it. There's even FCC money to help households that are below the poverty line to be able to afford it at lower rates. That's part of the program as well, so that even folks that really would struggle to afford a $60 or $75 a month internet connection fee, that fee would be significantly lower through the program. So it's a great opportunity. I think, people have been talking about it for a long time. People have talked about wireless for a long time. There's nothing better than having fiber optic cable running across the front of your house. With that, be happy to answer any questions. The IDA is very supportive, but yet, they know what they're committing, that you're the backstop for the IDA financially. And, you know, if the worst of the worst were to happen, the county ultimately could be responsible for that. So that's, Terry and I have got to find some good examples to try to, you know, limit the liability to the county at the end of the day. But I really think between some of the state and federal funding that this number won't be as large. Again, you think it's a 26, almost $25, $26 million project, and 10 automatically off the top is coming out because of federal grants. That's a great start to getting this moving.
I guess you're more or less, this is just information at this particular time, just.
So
Do you need the board to give you all
he's got,
permission to pursue?
I think IDA is sitting there waiting to see what the board thinks. He's got till June 8th, I think I noted, 6th, to make it, you know, he needs some ability to have at least the $1 million loan from the Tobacco Commission in place to guarantee his $1 million with the Small Business Administration. And I realize it's a tight timeline. We could always table and have a special meeting if we needed to with the IDA, if you wanted to, if you had some concerns. Again, I actually got a good contact today for an agreement. Again, the agreement part, once we get the loan, I think just getting the application to Tobacco Commission, that doesn't give the money to Connects yet. We still got some hoops to jump through before. If the IDA is the applicant, at some point, the IDA is going to have to turn around and hand the money over to Connects. We've still got the ability to put other things in place and have other discussion before that happens, right, Terry? So I think there's a lot of work to do, but I think the IDA is just wants to make sure that the Board of Supervisors supports this effort if they go down this path.
I'd like to make a motion that we support the effort of the IDA in the Connects loan.
I'm in favor of it too. Would there be any way for us to back out if all of a sudden we saw something we didn't like, say, hey, we don't want it?
So Terry, I think the ultimate answer is the agreement with Connects. So I think there's another document that has to get approved by the county.
So if we don't like it, we can say, hey, no, we don't.
I think we can come back.
So more or less from what I understand, the motion that's being presented and seconded is that we support the IDA in the application.
Yes.
But then it will be brought back to us before anything is signed. Is that what I'm understanding? Okay, in that
Yeah.
case.
So you're supporting, but they're basically the resolution that's in the packet that they would submit to.
That they would submit.
Tobacco Commission.
Tobacco Commission, that's
Yes.
correct. Then, of course, it would ultimately come back to us before anything else was signed.
Right.
All right, there's been a motion properly made and seconded with those stipulations. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim? Jerry, Bobby?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Lou?
Yes.
All right, so moved. That gives the IDA the ability to go ahead and present to
Put that
the,
application in.
yes.
Yeah.
All right, tax relief.
Section 70.203.4 of the Prince Edward County Code provides a partial exemption from real property taxes for citizens age 65 and older who are permanently and totally disabled who qualify for the exemption. The current ordinance exempts people whose gross combined income of $22,000 or under and net combined financial worth does not exceed $100,000. With the recent increase in assessed values of 18.27%, in conjunction with the 2021 general reassessment, Commissioner of Revenue and I have discussed the need to increase the home value limit from the current $100,000 potentially up to $150,000. As the attached letter shows, for tax year 2020, the county had 64 qualified applicants. After the reassessment, 22 of the 64 individuals would be ineligible as their dwelling and 1 acre parcel would exceed the $120,000 limit. By increasing the limit up to 120, only 2 would be ineligible. The commissioner also provided a table comparing the limits of surrounding counties. Attachments are a letter from the commissioner. Amendment options are in a comparison chart.
At this point, we need to hold a public hearing on the request, and I would certainly say that Supervisor Booth has much more background experience than I could offer on this subject. I know, Beverly, you were involved in initial establishment of the ordinance, correct?
Actually, no, it was the commissioner prior to me.
Okay.
Okay, but it went into effect then, and then when I took over, it grew. I'm reading the sample motions. I do have a question. What is she asking? I know she's asking that the home in 1 acre not to go from 100,000 to 120.
That was option 2.
Okay.
And the
But
first
what
one,
about the net worth? I'm not quite,
so it was to change it from the home plus 1 acre not to exceed 100 to a home plus 1 acre, but the home would be considered part of the total 150,000 asset limit.
yeah. Did she say why she wanted it changed to that?
She didn't. And I would certainly have her here. We could advertise it both ways. I could have her here at the next.
I was just, because I
the
know
public
it
hearing.
wasn't like that before.
Correct. My guess is, my experience is, a lot of times you'll have a home value, and then you have an income limit, a total assessed, net worth limit, and they never approach. The home is everything they have.
But and I think she still has some that could possibly knock them out of it.
Yes.
If we went to the 120, is that what you're saying?
No, she's asking too, that the house in 1 acre be considered
I
part
got
of
you. I
that
got you.
net worth of 150,000.
I think that's, again, 2 options. You could do the
Okay.
first one or you could do this. Second one is certainly closer, tracks the current language of the ordinance. You're just simply moving that limit from 100 to 120,000. And again, I think she said maybe 2 people
2 people will be affected.
be impacted.
I'm gonna let you read that and defer because you're out of my.
Also, is the net worth now at 100,000 or is it at 150,000? The current
I
ordinance?
think the current ordinance is 100,000 combined financial, but doesn't include the house.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Well, basically, we're just trying to decide if we want to go ahead and advertise.
Correct.
And we also need to advertise as to which.
I think on page 230, they're telling you back in 2009, that's the excerpt from the minutes.
All right, not to exceed, the net worth not to exceed 150,000 on page 232.
So
Number
discussed her
4.
option,
Increase
the
in
options.
net combined financial worth. That's where we are then, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we don't vote to advertise it, then this dies, right?
That's correct.
It would stay where it's at.
Yeah.
But I do think that the house in 1 acre needs to be increased to 120,000, from 100,000 to 120,000.
And if the houses went up close to the average of 18.27%, that would make sense.
It would have gone to 118 regardless.
So you're saying option 2?
Yeah, I was just questioning why she was including the house in 1 acre as part of the net worth, when the ordinance never
Doesn't say
stated
that.
that before.
If you want, you could just authorize the advertisement of option 2.
Yeah.
That's
Just take
what
that
I-
off the table, make it clean, simple.
Let's do that.
That's, yeah,
Yeah, you get a lot of variables in there, that's cool.
yeah. Because this is a good ordinance. This is one that I was very proud to work on.
So what you want to do,
Advertise option 2.
All right, there's a motion made to advertise option 2. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jim seconds it, so it's been properly made and seconded. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bobby? Jerry?
Yes.
Lou?
Yes.
All right,
That'll make it simple.
that will be simple, and that's for our June meeting, June 8th. All right.
Next item is discussion about the transient occupancy tax ordinance amendments. Attached in the board's consideration is the updated draft transient occupancy tax ordinance. The board originally adopted a transient occupancy ordinance in 2007. I think that was in conjunction with the Granite Falls Boulevard project, the hotel and conference facility, which never materialized. The ordinance was adopted, but the collection of the fee was never really enacted. So basically, the ordinance is on the books, but it hasn't been enforced. And part of that may have been, I think we've only got one hotel really that's outside of town limits, but now we've got a lot more Airbnbs and cabins and things in the community that weren't there 15 years ago. The draft ordinance proposes a 7% charge to the occupants of a room or space occupied for fewer than 30 days. The old ordinance was 5. We put 7 in there because that's what the new state code allows up to. The board could certainly, either before or after the public hearing, reduce that number. Revenues collected from the portion of the tax over 2% shall be used for promotion of tourism, travel, or businesses that generate tourism or travel in Prince Edward County. The revenue generated from up to 2 would go to the county general fund. This tax will only apply to lodging outside the town of Farmville, as Farmville has its own occupancy tax. Back in December 2020, Maggie Van Epps shared research she had done on rental locations in Prince Edward outside the town that are listed on Airbnb and vacation rental by owner, VRBO. Based on the number of rentals and the number of beds, she estimated that if each only had 2 rental days per week throughout the year, the county could generate $50,000 per year of occupancy tax revenue. The implementation of this would include both the Commissioner of Revenue and the Treasurer for assessment and collection of the tax revenues. I know the board, as part of the real estate tax this year, discussed this tax and meals tax and also the cigarette tax, and has directed staff to look into implementing them. I want to thank Terry for her efforts in helping, and Sarah, putting this draft together. With that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
This tax can only be used for tourism.
The first 2% go to the general fund. Anything above that have to be used for tourism. Now, I will say, we spend quite a bit on tourism in the operation of the visitor center. It could supplant some of that. It could also be used for tourism grants where we could help businesses in the community, like, give them, maybe they spend $15,000 a year on advertising. We could give them a $7,500 grant. We could have a program that businesses apply for. My last job, we also had it set up where there's a state program, like for breweries and distilleries, when they expand, it's the AFib program, it requires a local match, or our local match came from tourism dollars to help promote the community. So we gave them a 5-year, $5,000 grant, so it was a $25,000 local match, and they got $25,000 from the state. So there's different ways you can utilize the money, but anything over 2% has to be used for tourism promotion.
Right. We talked today, Doug, about this situation. Obviously, Mark Smith in my area, he's one very concerned. And we were naming his facilities, the hotel right at Dallas Corner, and then Twin Lakes, which I didn't thought that, Doug told that. All right. Would his facility be qualified to apply for the grants?
Absolutely. And we'd have to set up a program.
Right.
Once we get the revenue. And I'll pass this around too. This was a map we did a few months ago. These are some of the ones that are listed on the Airbnb site. Those are the ones that we know about and we're able to identify. There's about 15 to 20 cottages, cabins, apartments around that are leased on a short-term basis. So all those potentially would be paying a tax.
I got a couple of questions, that thing I brought up there. All right, more than likely, well, would the Cedar Crest, the state, they would be able to apply for grant money, would they?
I wouldn't see us
A state
funding a grant for a state organization. I wouldn't see that happening.
All right, then how about the hotel out at Daddy's Corner? What do you think they would?
I wouldn't think they'd be spending money on
What I'm
advertising.
getting at, I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
The Smiths would be highly likely to benefit
From a grant.
right now, most of the, except for maybe these that are on here.
Yeah. And I think, again, I think, helping, in essence, and I understand Mark's concerns. I've talked to him about it.
He's going through with the distillery, and, he's got a, neighboring guy that's going to do a winery there too. So,
And those are right up our alley for, either helping to promote or helping to, give grants for the actual construction and development of some of these facilities. It provides additional revenue for us to be able to utilize, rather than general fund dollars. And again, the good thing is, ultimately, it's paid for by the people coming to the community. When we go out and we travel, if we go to, whether it's Richmond or Virginia Beach and go to Lynchburg, you pay a lodging tax. And I know I don't usually, I'm not swift enough to go in there and look at what the lodging tax is before I go there. Sometimes you just go. We're missing out on that revenue. And only a small piece really goes to the general fund, but it really has to go towards it has to be allocated. And we have to involve those folks in the discussion about how to spend the money.
All right, obviously, an RV park would not count, right?
Correct.
But we do have that RV park, Briar Creek, don't they have a couple cabins out there too, besides the?
I think so. No, not that, no.
Not there.
But there's one that, they came to us right many years back. Sometimes I thought they had cabins there too.
I think
Not at Briar.
at least, Twin Lakes has at least 11 that they list on the website. I know you and I talked to, I think they have more rooms or something, but, yeah, it's,
All right, another, Sailor's Creek Outfitters.
Absolutely.
I mean, they do guide hunts and have lodging
They
there.
do, the lodging there would definitely fall under
These
this.
days- I think you're talking about the Lyle RV park. He had a couple of houses back
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
there.
about.
He had a couple of rental houses back there.
Oh, it's rental houses, not cabins for.
Well, I
If
think
they're
people
less
might
than
come
30
in-
days,
I think they
yeah.
come and rent that for a weekend,
Just a
weeks and stuff.
fishing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
stuff
right.
like that.
About
Yeah.
15.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what I thought. too.
yeah. I think you got 2 or 3 houses
That's
back
what
there.
I remember from that.
I think we have to have a public, reality is, we have an ordinance on the books, but to meet, getting in compliance with the state code, we need to make the tweaks to it. My suggestion be is have the public hearing, and Mark and anybody else who has concerns, they would have the ability
We'll
to
probably find
voice
out
it
a
with them.
few people maybe have these things we don't know about.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay, I will move that the board authorize advertising the updated and amended county transient occupancy tax ordinance for a public hearing at the June 8th, 2021 board meeting.
I'll second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim? Bobby? Jerry? And Lou?
Yes.
I think one thing that some people don't realize too, it does cost them is the fact that someone may say, I'm not coming because you're higher. But it doesn't necessarily cost them. It's whoever stays there makes the decision whether to pay more or not.
Well, if they go, right now, they got the only advantage they have, if someone looks, gonna stay in farm, I'll pay the 7% tax, if I stay outside, I won't.
I won't, that's
But
right.
I think I'm like, I don't.
I don't think
It's, you're exactly right. People don't look at that and just say it's not. Number one, because they can charge more regardless, their rate may be higher, even though they're not paying the 7% or whatever else, so people don't necessarily look at the price
When you get
factored
in with
into
it,
it.
when you see the ad, room for $149,
That's
when
right.
you get to thing, the state was like, woo.
That's right.
$200.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, they don't necessarily, you're right, they don't necessarily have to absorb it. They could if they wanted to, but they don't have to. They can pass it on, so. Anyway, June the 8th,
Yes, sir.
there we are. Landfill billing.
Here she comes.
Uh-oh.
So I have been doing landfill billing since I started here in 2015. We have had tremendous efforts to collect payments from our people that dump at the landfill. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. We have had some unsuccessful times. Some of it was debt that was created before I came here, such as county waste, or not county waste, I'm sorry, Container First. Container First actually had double the amount that's currently there. They paid half of it in 2017, and we've not been able to collect it anymore. Some of these other places we've collected, we've tried to collect, the mail comes back undeliverable. Some people just don't respond to our mail. We cut them off at 60 days from being able to use the landfill. Some people care, some people don't. We have people that habitually use the landfill, get their bill up, then they don't pay their bill, and 2 years later, they want to come back to the landfill to dump. Justin Walls is a perfect example of a person that does that to us. He knows he owes the bill, he won't pay it. He'll go to Cumberland or wherever else he needs to dump until they won't let him dump. And then he'll come back, he'll pay his bill in Prince Edward County, and he'll come back. What I'm asking for is for us to abate these charges for the people that we cannot collect on. They're old debt, they're over, it's 2018 or above. The 3-year limit is because the tickets have to be disposed of. If you look at some of the companies are out of business, they're bankrupt. I can't collect because I can't get their address. So it's $33,199 that I'm asking to abate. And I think that takes us down to about $30,000 that is owed from 2018 to current.
It looks
And-
like half of it is two companies.
Yes.
Container First and
Yeah, they're-
Sports Construction.
Are they still in business?
No. Can we,
Container First went to Richmond, and that's where we got our half of our money from in 2017, and then that was all we got. So we
Yeah,
did get
they're
half of
kinda-
what they owed us.
yeah. Let me first I would make a motion to approve the writing off of anything older than 2018. Then I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Bobby seconded. It's been properly made and second. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim? Bobby?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Lou?
Yes.
Now, if you'll hold up, I
Yes, sir.
would like for us to somehow figure out, doesn't necessarily have to be tonight, but how we can stop the deal like you were just talking about. Anyone that has been a problem in the past, if they come back, I think they ought to have to pay up front for X number of tons, at least double or triple of what they have on that day. Or something of nature, because it's not a problem that's just happened once. It's been an ongoing problem. So something for Terry to look at, or the board to look at, or whatever else, what we can do as far as having to prepay if you're a problem, or have been a problem, or if we think they're gonna be a problem. But the businesses that have gone out of business, there's just nothing we can do about it.
Well, Carpet House, basically what they did is they went out of business, took the stuff to the landfill, and left us with the bill. So that was pretty much what happened with Carpet House. There's probably been others. We cannot collect at the landfill. We don't have that capabilities. We can't even accept credit cards for landfill billing. They either have to come in and write a check, make a payment over. They can do the credit card in the office, at the treasurer's office, but they can't do credit card over the phone, or they have to do mail or cash. for
So
landfill
we get
billing.
their address and then mail them a bill?
We do. The landfill has started doing a better job. The people at the landfill have started doing a better job of having them notify me so that I can create an account. Unfortunately, me creating an account doesn't do a whole lot if we're not collecting some kind of money beforehand or getting some kind of assurance that they're going to make the payment. We did have a meeting, Terry, myself, Doug, Stephanie Baffert from the treasurer's office, not only talk about the debt that we owe, but how we could start collecting some of the money. Some of the ideas were to put a terms and conditions on the landfill ticket so that they understand that they owe the money when they make the dump, to adding interest to accounts over 90 days, anyone not known having to create an account and maybe paying up front. That would make a whole lot of sense. And then when we do have accounts that are 90 days over, submitting them to Terry for her to collect through the courts, and also adding an interest on that. That part of the,
Can we set up a credit card machine up there? It's pretty easy to do this day and time.
we cannot accept it through the Bright system. The Bright system will not allow us to collect credit card from even from us to pay it over the phone. So we wouldn't be able to do it through them either.
That's your computer system?
It is. It's very, Bright's very antiquated, and the landfill billing is a special add-on. So it doesn't have a lot of the features that we would have otherwise, like for your property taxes and those kinds of things.
I'd say, let's just go find another software package, but you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars.
In order to, most
Might be.
places, when you are gonna purchase on credit,
I think we did have that idea also,
Credit
didn't we,
check.
Kara? We just
you
didn't.
also have to, like you said, David, have an account.
You have
and
to,
put a
yeah.
credit card or something.
Put something up as
Yeah.
collateral as a,
Yeah.
yes.
Any ideas, Terry?
Yeah, you'd have to make sure that there was disclosure about getting that credit card information in order to charge it.
Yeah, we'll have to, it'll have to be done by Terry, but it'll have to be, it needs to be, whoever comes in from now on would have to be given a brochure or something saying this starts in June or July or whatever else, but if you're, a new person or whatever else, say, look, if you can't go pay today as of June, we will, June or July.
Surrounding counties that run their own landfills, right?
Got a few, a lot of them are privatized, but there's a few out there.
Could we check with them and see how they handle?
Yeah, we can do
They
that.
don't, most of them don't accept any outside or commercial haulers.
We can check.
That's fine.
Outside the county, let me rephrase that.
Right.
They would, so then they could go back
But
to
they still
that.
got some
Surely they'd have some.
paying customers.
That's right.
Yeah, you hate writing off that kind of money.
Well, yeah, I know, but I looked at a few of
Two
them.
or three of these, you're not, 2 or 3 of these, you're not gonna get. You're not gonna get them, I don't care what you do.
They would be thrown into the.
That's exactly right.
But, a whole lot of money, but, people are paying with their phones now.
I'll say cash apps and stuff.
Yeah, the modern technology now is just,
Unfortunately, the
I
software
was gonna
that
say
local
this-
governments operate on is
They
not
can't,
there yet.
yeah, they can't accept it because it's gotta go, it's weird how the,
But I think, we can look at the credit application part so that if we needed to, we can go back and go to the treasurer's
you
office.
need to have something with their signature on it stating, I will pay the bill.
that's right, I mean,
Then
and it's,
Terry
like
can
you
do
say,
her
if we
homework.
have some type of credit application or something, if they had, where it's attached to, just like you would a credit card or whatever else, where there is some way to go back. Because this is gonna increase, this right here will increase with, as far as people using or whatever else, because it's,
I'm using.
I agree.
But like Lou said, you could pay with like the Cash App and stuff. We could have a direct cell phone that they have to call. You could give them the cell phone number. They have to set it up from their bank account, which they can transfer to Prince Edward County, and it's printable. An actual payment called the Cash App.
You can have it set up with a bank, and if bank we deal with is direct deposit.
And just do it direct deposit.
And then Cheryl can take it out.
And she can look at the bank account.
Actually, I don't have anything to do with that part. That's all the
That's
treasurer.
Oh,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
But even the treasurer's office.
Mike, the thing about it is the landfill is such a weird entity because of the rules and regulations, but I'm not saying it can't be done, but that's something we need to look at, but
But we
there's gotta
definitely need
be
to
a.
figure out a way to
Yeah,
get
that-
We
paid.
gotta make sure too, it's okay with the auditors how we do it, I would think.
Yeah, and that's something else we could do.
But what's in the past, I mean, you might as well write off and quit keeping the tickets because
Yeah.
that's just a pain.
You certainly, you can set a $500 or $1,000, whatever limit, but certainly the ones, you don't want them to get beyond a certain amount before we're cutting them off.
I
like that.
would,
We
we
do have
definitely
a
need to put a
limit.
limit on it, like, within 30 days, if we haven't received payment somewhat, you're just not gonna dump here. I mean, I don't care if it's Container First or Piedmont or whoever, just say, look, you better call your boss because you don't get to dump here today. There's no need for us to have to carry everybody else's. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
We will
Thank
look
you.
into that because I guess while we're on that too, I guess I can bring out a couple of things from a properties meeting today, that we had a properties meeting and talked about the landfill and possibly increasing some rates and kind of what we might do as far as tires and things of the nature. So if the board if you have any suggestions, especially Bobby and Lou, because you all kind of know what I'm talking about as far as people dumping stuff maybe that they shouldn't, or bringing extra stuff or whatever else. We're just kind of looking at the tire situation right now. Of course, if you put it in the bin, it's completely legal, whatever else, but if you bring it to the landfill, we're only charging $75 a ton, and it's costing us $150 automatically, so we lose $75 a ton the moment that they drop the tires off.
Manual, 150.
It's more than that, really, but yeah.
I called a couple days, told me, I still on the phone.
Well, that may be, they might be getting a rate.
Well, because I've got rear track tires.
Right.
And I want to get them up out of there.
Right.
I called them, that's what they said, it's 100 a ton. Because I've heard it
Right.
more than
Yeah.
that. And
Regardless, we can't do it for 75, even if it costs us 100, we can't lose $25 a
Right.
ton, just for the simple fact of, the car tire, and I said to Ms. Pride and them today too, and Jerry, that part of the problem is, on our end of it, in the dumpsters, if someone throws a tire in there with the wheel still on it, of course, it increases our weight, and it goes against us, even though they get to recycle that. But anyway, it's just something that we're gonna have to do, so we kind of just talked about some issues and things we threw around, and Doug's gonna look at it, and we're gonna probably raise that, because that doesn't have to come to the board to begin with. That's not necessarily a board decision, but just let you all, keep you updated and let you know what's going on. Darlington Heights, we talked about the pipe there. Probably gonna have, they tried to open it this week, they tried to put a jack in it and jack it back up and raise it. It's gonna have to probably gonna have to be replaced, but it is running water. If any of you all have been there, it literally runs all the water into the site. It cannot go anywhere else. It just flat out has nowhere else to go until we get that pipe fixed. We also talked about 2 or 3 of the other sites, about opening them quote-unquote unmanned for a few hours a day, just so that they would actually be open. We've heard a lot of chatter about some of the sites that were not open. Some of them we haven't had problems with. Rice, Prospect, and Tuggle get the most landfill usage, or the most convenient site usage, so that's 3 of the sites that we looked at.
Little fence repair too.
Fence repair was on there. What else, Patty?
Waste
Yeah,
waste decal too.
yes, we did talk about a decal, waste decal for your vehicle, and I brought up the problem, I won't say an option, I brought up the problem with not everybody drives the same vehicle to the landfill all the time. Bobby, I know, I'll say myself, and then I'm sure Bobby's the same. The question was asked about, did it all have to be on a vehicle that had registration and tags and all that. No, it does not. State code allows anyone that legally has a farm use vehicle to carry your trash in the farm use vehicle. So we talked about that, and that you would be issued one for every vehicle that is licensed, and then you could buy another one or two of them or whatever else if you had unlicensed vehicles that you need to carry stuff, so that way you would have it. And we just kind of kicked around, $5 or $10 per one, or maybe even putting it on some type of a ID card so I could not give mine to someone that lives in another county and say, here, use my decal. It would have to say David Emmert with my decal, and then I could just say, yes, I am David Emmert or whatever. Some of the other counties actually ask for your registration when you come in. If they don't know you, they literally ask you for your registration to your vehicle. So those are just some of the things. They're getting, the estimate today, of course, this is purely an estimate, that as much as 50% of Rice and Prospect was from out of county. On certain days, not necessarily, but I mean, like, say a Monday morning when someone's coming, I'm just gonna say Amelia or Lunenburg or Nottaway, I'm not throwing stones at any county. But if they're coming from those counties to work here in Farmville, that they go by and throw their trash in there on a Monday morning, which that if they, if they did not have the decal, they couldn't do that. Even though they work here, they couldn't do it. It was brought up about Buckingham, and since they went to the new system and whatever else, if they'd had less problem, more problem. They've had less problem with out of county trash, but they have more problem with the wrong trash being in the bin because it's unmanned. So for instance, if they had a tire bin, it may be full of trash instead of tires. So there's a.
There's you have this decal with open gate.
That's correct.
And I've seen that, and I think Charlotte County might have something, which is very expensive, I imagine, to implement.
They spent $1 million or something to that effect to put
In
the whole
my
system in.
opinion, and I know you don't want out of county trash away, but then at least it's get in the dumpster. That's better than being thrown on the side of the road somewhere.
That's right.
And I'm sure Rice is a great attraction to people from Nottaway Hall. They go right by whipping there, but they're not bringing like a pickup load of trash. They're bringing a couple garbage.
And that's another thing that we discussed too, was that I'm going to say homeowners because that's what they are. Just because you're a homeowner and have rental property, whatever else, if you go to the rental properties and pick it up, you're no longer necessarily you're not a homeowner. So please don't take it. And we're going to just ask. I mean, it's not something that at this point we're going to necessarily enforce. But let's just say I have 4 or 5 rental properties. I don't get to go pick up the trash and carry it to the convenience center. I should take it to the one at Tuggle. So if I show up literally with a whole track and trail load of trash, now if I'm cleaning out a barn or something else and you have a whole thing on Saturday, that's different. But I mean, to show up there with two pickup loads of trash you picked up at all the rental properties, please don't go to the convenience site. Please go to the regular landfill. Just some of the things that we discussed in it that we wanted the board to be aware of. Anything else, Doug, on that side?
No, I think that's pretty much most of what we hit on.
The decals, we will definitely visit and just think about those and what we're going to go from there. Fiscal policy, I guess we're to that, Doug.
And now, Jimmy, you with us?
I think I heard it snore.
I'm here.
As discussed at the Davenport presentation on February 23rd, the board should consider and adopt fiscal policies to guide the county's capital improvement, budget, and debt policies. Jimmy has made some comparisons of the proposed policies to make sure they're in line with current finances. Our debt to assessed value, the county currently sits at 0.9%. The county could add $40 million in debt to be at the suggested 3% policy limit. Debt service to expenditures, the county currently is at 5%. The 12% suggested limit would allow debt service to grow around $5 million from the existing $2.1 million. Suggested payout ratio of 50%. The county is currently at 80%, so there's good cushion there. Unassigned fund balance, the county is around 46% or $12.9 million. Currently of general fund revenue, the suggested limit of 30% would allow you to go down to $8.3 million. Again, in your packet is the draft policy, and with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jimmy. And Jimmy, feel free to add whatever you think we should add to the discussion.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that we want to just mention, and we talked about it a little bit when I was up there before, these are meant to be sort of guideposts for future boards in particular as you look at your CIP and start thinking about how you're going to layer in projects. And we can take that and run some analysis to see what it's going to look like in the future and whether you're getting closer to these policy limitations that you have. That's not to say that you as a board or even future boards would necessarily want to go up to those policy levels because the other side of it, we talked about it with you before, is the debt affordability side. We look at these policy limitations as debt capacity limits on the county, but different from how we're going to pay for it if we were to, as was mentioned earlier, if we were to add an additional $40 million of debt and would still put us at that 3% level compared to assessed value, how are we going to pay for that? How's the county going to afford it? That's a totally different question. The other thing I guess I'll mention is these policies are meant to be they're meant to be static in that you're not binding future boards to these policies. We work with localities that have changed the policies over time as their county grows. For example, they may need to go above these limitations, regardless of what it might do to their ratings, for example. So there certainly are some localities that are above that 12% limit on debt service to expenditures, but that starts to eat into a little bit of what you can do with other parts of your budget. So I think that those are the main things I think we want to mention. Again, we are comfortable that you're well within these policy guidelines that you have, but happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions from the board? I don't think so. Thank you, Jimmy. What is the pleasure of the board?
I guess I'll make a motion we adopt the financial policy as presented.
Second that.
There's been a motion made and probably seconded to adopt it as presented. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim? Bobby?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
All right.
Jimmy, thank you for your input. And I think one of the things that we'll start doing with this year's budget, end of the year, we have unspent funds for certain projects that maybe we don't complete. It's to set up a special projects account where we can put money, you may have 10,000 for something in the budget this year, and the project may take 20 or 30,000. So we'll pull 10 from this year's budget, add next year's, then one more year, you'll have enough money to be able to complete the project. That way, you're able to kind of pay as you go and use cash versus having to go back and borrow funds for that. You save interest costs. And, but it also, because if you set it up right, it's outlined in the budget. It doesn't mean you can't come back and use it for something else, but you've got those funds set aside to take care of it, and you can kind of balance the budget over multiple fiscal years. So we'll try to do some of that this year, and certainly, I think it was important to get these policies in place before we consider the capital improvement plan here in a few months. Thank you, Jimmy.
Absolutely. Y'all have a great evening.
You're saying,
Likewise.
I think you've got an update on the county report, just for your information. Are there any questions or anything?
Sarah, anything you want to add?
Sarah,
I'd be happy to, I know y'all had the opportunity to read it, and I believe that Patty Hewitt is on the phone.
all right, Patty?
We just, if you've got no questions, we'll.
Hey, Patty, do you have anything to add or anything? Are you still with me, Patty? All right.
There she is.
Yes, ma'am. I don't think that there are any questions from the board, anything in particular that we need to know or not know.
Yeah, I don't know that the board needs to actually vote unless there are any objections to the recommendations. These are
I don't think there are any.
operational, but we wanted the board to be aware of the recommended changes, just to better manage the flow of appointments, to make sure that the cost of the cans was being covered by the charge for the cans, and to equalize and make sure that we were accounting for the out-of-county users, so that they were paying their 30% out-of-county surcharge.
All right, we appreciate it. Sarah, you're up for the briefing, or come on, Trey.
All right, good evening, board. In front of y'all, set on your tables before the meeting, update number 21 to COVID-19. Again, below you in the chart is the numbers respectively from April to May today. Again, point out the numbers are looking even better and better every month we go. Less than 100 new cases in Prince Edward for the last month. The bottom part of that first page is a shots to date. We have a slower increase now. We're getting some of that reluctancy from the younger crowd, but we're working on that with some PSAs. Currently working with VDM and the Piedmont Health District to set up some mobile clinics throughout the county to assist in the vulnerable, underserved populations. Those are tentatively scheduled for the last 2 weekends in May. We've strategically located 5 to 6 locations in the county via some data that we were able to pull from Piedmont Health. And hopefully that's going to target some of those smaller populations that haven't either been able to make it out or maybe on the fence about getting it. Still using vaccinefinder.org to find clinics and pharmacies in the area. Of course, our clinics, so we're still focused on that vulnerable population. The health department continues to administer weekly vaccines. We're fortunate in Prince Edward County that one of the main spots is the Peffia Gym. They're doing two clinics usually a week, if not one a week out there. We do have 2 clinics scheduled, one tomorrow, one Friday at Peffia. As Dr. Johnson had indicated on her call with y'all about the update on the school, May 18th, we partner with them and the Piedmont Health District to do a clinic at the school during the school meal pickups from 4 to 6 in anticipation of hoping to grab some of the younger school-age kids, parents that may come through. Again, every vaccine is better than none. Executive Order 72 was amended by the governor for the 7th time. That takes effect on the 15th, easing some restrictions, increasing some capacities on inside and outdoor capacity limits. Under education, just a note for y'all, it lets you know that, of course, Longwood's graduating this week. Hampton City graduated last weekend, and then Fuqua and Prince Edward will be graduating here shortly. So our population in the county obviously is decreased. So
When did you say Longwood was graduating?
they have 2 dates listed on their website, the 14th and the 15th. Jury trials, just a note, we did have our first jury trial at the end of August, to my knowledge, and I believe, Sarah, we had no hiccups. Everything was smooth as far as COVID and procedures and policies go. Page number 6, you'll see the call volumes. Again, that's indicative of what we said last year at this time, was the call volumes had drastically dropped off. Over 100 increase in 1 year's time. The PPE AFG grant paperwork has been submitted for reimbursement, waiting on that. Public information, the county mailer that went out hit the mailboxes late last week. We have seen some citizens respond to that and show up at the clinics. And the county continues to work with letterpress to assist with public information for the COVID. And then we go all the way to the back, and the health equity second round distributions. The visitor center has started assembling enough of those now to get us ahead in the stockpile. So hopefully next week, we'll start to see those 4,000 bags start rolling out into the community. On your last page, not COVID related, the pipeline emergency y'all had talked about earlier. Obviously, today, the governor declared a state of emergency for the pipeline shutdown. Pipeline is planning to get flowing again at the end of the week, as y'all are aware, and we are monitoring the situation and planning for possible effects supplying public safety. Side note that came in after we printed this, the Virginia was awarded the ice storm decoration today by FEMA for the time period of February 11th through February 13th. So we're going to start working with the fire departments and other entities inside the county to start getting their man hours and their costs associated so we can submit a PA request to FEMA. And then the second thing y'all had on there, second handout, that's just a flyer we send out to all the schools, kids. That's supposed to be going home in their persons so they can hopefully get some generation. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank y'all.
Ms. Terry.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have a specific report. Been working, as you've heard, with various parts of the county government, working with Sarah and Doug, and working on various ordinances and documents and contracts. I don't have anything in, that I know about as far as any lawsuits. Any concerns?
From the fellow with the house at Hampton City.
We, I actually, that's at 157 McFarland Lane. I did actually talk to the son, and he was supposed to go out this past weekend. He hasn't called me back, but I was pleased that we did have some contact with him. So that's at least abated Terry and I taking the action. We certainly would rather them take care of their own issue than us having to get involved. So I'm hoping that he'll actually do something and we don't need to do any follow-up, but I'll keep you posted.
All right. Anybody else? Thank y'all very much.
All right, Doug.
I'll hit a few things that have come in and a couple things off my report to the board last Friday. You noticed a couple weeks ago, we did a pickup out on the bypass, and this was using VDOT's contractor. We spent $4,some hundred, but we were able to get over 1,800 pounds of trash, 413 bags were picked up. On the bypass, Hard Times Road leading back into the landfill, it made a heck of a difference. So hopefully you all have seen it yourself or heard people say something about it. And I encouraged Scott, and he did. They're out there today mowing. I said, you better get out there and mow before it gets covered again.
Seriously, that's all.
Otherwise, you'll be mowing trash. So, and working with Trey, we're going to try to get a couple of message boards up to, if nothing else, say, keep Prince Edward beautiful, don't litter and just try to get the good word out. But appreciate the feedback on that. Received correspondence today that our permit modification for the landfill has passed its final technical review, and based on the review, the application appears to be technically adequate. This time, the department will prepare the final draft permit and move forward with the permit approval process. So that would take us from the 100 tons a day to the 175, which we're temporarily operating at, and take care of us for, kind of our long-term needs for a number of years.
But that would be permanent once it's.
Yes, sir, once it's in place. Couple other things. We're working to hopefully have an announcement soon, our ACT Work-Ready Community Progress. Strategic planning, we're working with Letterpress and Dr. Pride on trying to finalize our strategic plan stuff to bring that to the board for final consideration. We have been in discussions with a solar developer who's looking at a large solar project in the county, and probably within the next month or two, we'll see something at the Planning Commission level. And Sandy River Reservoir, we had a Zoom meeting last week with the Department of General Services. We continue to try to look and see if we can be involved in providing the water needed for their facilities there between Brookville and Crew. That certainly, if included, could obviously generate substantial amount of water need for development of facility. Otherwise, we're on our own and looking at serving the Hampton-Sydney community and a potential data center site. So we'll let you know how that continues to progress. But DGS is trying to cover their facilities and the jail facility there as well. So I'd like to think that Sandy River is a viable option for them. Last thing, and I mentioned earlier about the American Rescue Plan, Prince Edward's slated to receive about $4.4 million as part of that. The good news is we would have till 2024 to complete the expenditures. I imagine, would try to convene our CARES Act committee in the next month or two, just at least to talk about some of the process, to get some direction on some of the things we want to look at, focus on. As we found out with COVID, we need broadband in this community to be able to provide the necessary services to our constituents. And hopefully we could put a piece or a chunk of this money towards that. I'd love to be able to match it with some additional state dollars or federal dollars to really help ramp this up and get it implemented. And that would make a difference, be a game changer for our community. So that's all I have, unless there are any questions.
One question. When do they plan on opening that new facility down at Purple Creek?
Not far off. It's,
Well, look, they already been making their water plants a long time ago.
yeah, and it's, I think they are behind the eight ball. I think you're talking within the next few months, 3 to 6 months. I was over there a couple months ago, and it certainly, a lot of the construction activity is starting to wind down. So I haven't heard of an official date, but yeah,
That was a talk with previous administration about that water supply. We don't ever know what happened to it, but there was a conversation.
So,
They're supposed to employ like 700 people or so.
And
then house.
well, see, the current water is coming from Crew, and it's being served by a water line that's an old, like 100-year-old water line, and Crew has its challenges with Crystal Lake, and so they definitely need to do something. Whether it's working with us, working with Blackstone is an option certainly, and the because they've got the availability of water with the Pickett there, Fort Pickett. So
It's more than just that. I mean, Pickett's gonna need water too, and.
Well, they have a certain reserve on that water in Blackstone for Pickett. It's not being used.
That's
It's gonna
correct.
stay
They
there.
cannot use it. That's right. Has to stay there.
if you have a military ramp up and their allocation
That's right. Has to
takes
be there-
precedent.
Has to be there at all times, so that, like you, I'm a little concerned as to why they didn't figure out if they were gonna have water or not.
I think that's the first thing I do, is build my house and drill a well.
That's exactly right. I want some water there.
You'd be surprised, though, a lot of contractors, the last week, they're drilling the well, and then they can't get water. And you're like, you just built a $400,000 house, and you got 0.5 gallon a minute trying to serve.
And they've got, what, a $400 million facility, and not sure where they get, water's no longer very good in the lake. All right, is that all you have for us?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or anything from the board? I will say to you all, which I guess you all know, that Ms. Baker was let go from Crossroads. That was a kind of a odd meeting from what I understand, but that did happen, and they're in the search now. Is that correct, Ms. Fry? That's
Yes.
something that I can
And
say?
David, you just took the words from my mouth. I was gonna tell you to look at the headlines on front page. Baker removed as Crossroads Executive Director.
Hope got enough our contract out there.
They do not.
Cool.
There was something in the stipulations where they could do it without calls. They have to pay
Right.
a month or two or something severance pay, but yes, there was something in the contract which they
Very good,
found.
okay.
very clear cut what could be done and what couldn't, so. And the lady, from what I understand, that's running it is there for the time being, and they're searching for, she's searching for, doing a nationwide search for someone to do it. So I have gotten some feedback, and everyone said thanks to this board, especially for at least taking a look and asking some questions that they were glad that as being the quote-unquote host county, that we stepped up to the plate, so. It worked out. If there are no other questions or anything else, I'm gonna say, yes, ma'am?
Recess.
Until